welcome back to Federation Station. I'm your host, Captain Kevin. It is a beautiful day in Bumbleberg, as some people might get that reference. But today we are going to talk about the new rules update for Armada that has just been released by AMG. Coming at the heels of LVO, it seems like a fortuitous time to have a rules update. That way, no one can have any idea what it will look like in a competitive scene before Worlds. So today I'm joined again by Admiral Bodie over here. Say hi.
How's it going, everyone?
And Texas Honey Badger. Say hello.
Howdy.
Texas Honey Badger hopefully will stay with us throughout the course of this podcast, but he's also in a possible fire zone in California. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all those people, and hopefully Honey Badger stays safe. All right. What we're going to do today is we're going to go in order. We're going to post this link to an update errata sheet that someone made. Who made it? Bodie?
Forrest EXE, he's one of the legacy guys. Yeah, legacy guys.
Well, he has done an excellent job creating this errata change log, and it looks very official, very clean and crisp. So you can find that in the link below in the description of the video if you'd like. We're just going to go right off the bat, start with Galactic
Hold
Empire.
on, real fast.
Ooh, okay.
So we should clarify our system for it, and then there's also a couple of things that aren't on this that were changes in the rulebook itself, and I can talk about those real quick first.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so the system we're going to use is the thumb system. So if we don't like anything, then we'll just give it the Roman thumb, I guess, where it's on its side from Gladiator. And then thumb up, thumbs down, two thumbs down about the changes. In general, I will say I am pretty pleased with a lot of the changes. And I think it should shake up the meta quite a bit. But why don't you go ahead and read us off the rules changes?
Yeah, so I don't have the official thing right here, but in essence, basically now with squadrons, you're going to be measuring from the post. So if it's squadron to squadron, for line of sight, if you're measuring from squadron to squadron, it's going to be post to post. And if you're doing from a ship, then it's going to be the post to the dot. This shouldn't affect a whole lot, but it will affect some niche things with obstacles. Where you might have had line of sight with closest point, now you won't because it's measured from a little bit farther back. Maki Jackson is going to make a FAQ kind of sheet to give all of the examples. So if that gets posted before this episode, I'll make sure it gets linked as well. And then the only other changes are super minor. It's like they added the tag section, and it's nothing super fancy, but the main one is the squadron line of sight, and hopefully that doesn't cause any confusion in the upcoming tournaments. I think it's a positive change, though. I think it makes much more sense.
Yeah, I think it's a good quality of life change. I think it will maybe take a second or two to get used to it, but in general, it makes, I think, more sense to newer players that, okay, this is the point where I'm going to measure from, as opposed to kind of, it's not arbitrary to find the closest point, but it is a little bit more difficult to say for certain, okay, this is the closest point, not what you're saying. Right, opponent, you know.
All right, you want to get started then?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and read off the changes, and I don't have the cards in front of me. I'm just looking at the sheet, but I think I'll pull up the cards aside so that I can kind of judge like how this is going to affect. Although I think all these cards pretty well. First up is Admiral Screed. We're going to start with the Galactic Empire. Admiral Screed went from 26 to 24 points. This is earth-shattering, is it not?
I guess I'll give it a sideways thumb. I think that Screed still has the issues that he had before, but 2 points less may help, especially with some of the other changes we'll see later.
Badger, what do you think?
I give it one thumbs up. I think Screed needs a little bit of help. I don't know if this was necessarily enough or the right thing to do. I kind of liked what Arc did with him, where when he changes a die, it's unmodifiable. But I think maybe that's a little too powerful. But you are giving up a die to change a die, so I don't know. I think maybe that would have been a better change. I think giving him a points buff is a move in the right direction. So overall, it's positive for me. So I'll give it a thumbs up.
I'm in the same boat. I think he could have gone down another point or two, and it would have benefited him more. But as a whole, when you look at all the changes, everything that has been changed, aside from like a couple things, is just like a between 1 and 5 points change, and it kind of has to do with like how strong or weak something was. So I'm okay with this. I'd give it a one thumbs up as well. It could have been better. Um, it's in the right direction, so I don't think I'm ambivalent about it. I think it is good. But yeah. Okay. Next up, Darth Vader went from 36 to 34 points. I feel the exact same. So I'm gonna give it one thumb up. What about you, Bodie?
I think this is going to be one of my few two thumbs down. I honestly can't think of any off the top of my head other than this one. But Vader, he just sucks. Pardon my language. I don't know if we're family friendly or not, but
I may
I mean,
just I may try to bleep that out or something.
okay, all right. But I mean, we talked about this in our tier list. Vader has some issues, and 34 points is still way too expensive. I think that, if he was dropped to below 30, I'd be happy, but I'm still never going to play this guy.
I think that the problem you run into is he is saving you a lot of points, and you don't even have to use a die like lead shots. So when you run this guy out on a bunch of Architans, you don't have to put it. You don't have to put any turbo lasers on it, and that's kind of where all those points come from. I do think he's maybe perhaps a little overcosted, but I think we'll see. I would not be surprised to see like 5 Architans list with Vader at Worlds though. Badger, what do you have on this guy?
Um, the exact same thing as Screed. I I think he's terrible, and a points buff is a move in the right direction. So I give it a thumbs up. It's a overall a positive change, but it's just not enough. It's not enough to make Vader good. 34 points is way too much. I do like your point about it frees up a turbo laser slot. So instead of putting dice fixing there, you can put dice add, enhanced armament or slave turrets or something, spinals, whatever. But I think at 34 points, he's just way too expensive. I mean, for 6 points cheaper, you can get like Ramadi and continue to use your turbo laser slot for a dice fixing, but get the dice add when obstructed. Um, or for 10 points cheaper, you can use Screed and have an actual die fixing where you get to set it instead of just re-roll it, and it doesn't cost you a defense token. So I don't think he's gonna see very much play.
Yeah, I there also is the context down below where the Architans of both variants reduced in price. So that Architans list just got bigger and better. Uh exponentially, I guess, because you're compounding saving, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 points on uh 4 Architans and then 2 more points on Vader. That frees up a lot of room for the dice adding you're talking about. Okay. Up next we have Darth Vader officer who went from 1 point to 4 points. This is I think this is a two thumbs up for me. I think it could have been more. I think it could have been like 5 or 6 points. But I think this is in the right direction. It was much needed. So for me, two thumbs up. What do you think, Bodie?
This is definitely a two thumbs up for me. I think that Officer Vader was a given at one point. Um, I mean, there were only a few reasons to consider taking any of the other Vaders, and almost no reason to consider taking a different officer, at least somewhere in the fleet. And I think that now at 4 points, it is reasonably justifiable to play something else. And I think that shaking things up that much, especially with such a powerful effect as Vader's, is going to be quintessential in the upcoming competitive meta. So definitely 2 thumbs up.
Badger?
Yeah, I think it's at least a thumbs up. I'm almost inclined to give it 2 thumbs up, but uh, I think the Vader officer was really powerful. I think it had that 1 point initial cost because of the cost to use the ability. You had to discard an admiral and an officer, but there was just so many ways to get around it. Either you do it on an officer like Nita or Tua or Ozzel, where you've already got their effect and it doesn't hurt you at all, or you do it on like an intel officer after you've already inteled and after you've already used the ability. You don't need it anymore. Price when you're out of shields or after you've already used her ability. ESTs after you've already pitched your redirects. There was just so many ways to mitigate that cost that I think it definitely justifies increasing him. Maybe 4 points isn't enough, but we'll see, I guess. But it does add or takes away from the opportunity cost of using him versus Defender Vader. I think that's the only other version of Vader that we really have to worry about seeing consistently in a competitive meta, and I think his stock just went up a lot.
I am on board with most of that, except I think Boarding Trooper Vader is going to see a lot of play. Man, I say a lot of play. It's still really hard to go past Officer Vader. But I think that Boarding Trooper Vader, let's see, I think boarding teams might still be a little bit better than Boarding Trooper Vader because you can flip tokens and get them out. So let me take that back.
Well, I'll give my spiel on that once we get a little bit farther down the list.
Okay.
Just to keep things moving on, but I have some opinions out there.
Yeah, I do think that Boarding Trooper Vader got better, though. Governor Price is up next, who went from 7 points to 6 points, but had the errata where now she cannot set a die to a face with an accuracy icon. This is huge, 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 huge. Governor Price on a smaller scale than Anakin became a little bit oppressive in the fact that she could take away your ability to play defense by adding in an accuracy, and then with quad turbo laser cannons, added another accuracy. So it became rather oppressive, kind of in the same way that Anakin did, where I'm going to roll my dice, I'm going to feel happy about it, and you're going to feel sad. So this gives you back some agency as a defensive player to like use your defensive tokens and have some interaction during an attack instead of just sucking up all the points and, let's say, watching your interdictor go from full health, full shields to dead. So I'm on board with this change. I think it's 2 thumbs up. I think it was needed. They could have gone without this, though, I will say. Like, they didn't have to do this, but they did. I think it was the right move. It's 2 thumbs up from me. What do you think, Bodie?
I'm going to give it a sideways thumb. I think that this kind of kills Price. Your point about quad turbo laser cannons is, I mean, that's kind of the reason that I would put Price in a list, just to guarantee the double accuracy. Now you can still kind of get around that with the support team or weapon team or whatever it is that lets you change a crit to an accuracy, but that's 5 points. And I think that while you still get the swingy dice fixing, you can spend 1 damage from your side to get 2 damage against their side. Not being able to guarantee the accuracy effectively kills this card. I think that she's a niche pick now, and I probably won't be playing her in any fleet except for maybe SSDs.
Okay, but she still can get not the accuracies. She still can give you the crits that you want. So anytime you want a crit, you can get it. Anytime you need a double or 2 damage, you can get it. So it's not. I understand that it's not as strong.
It was the versatility, and I already I felt Price was fair for her old ability at 7. I think that the important part of her was because like paying a shield is a cost that adds up, right? You're going to notice that. And yes, it's a very strong effect, but the thing that made it strong is being able to guarantee the accuracy and just the flat damage trade. Unless, I mean, she might see play in some interesting crit builds. But to me, trading 1 damage on my side for 2 damage on their side is not worth 6 points. Whereas the accuracy would be more damage.
I think that it actually doesn't step on the toes of other cards though, with like eliminating cards that have their own design space like Sensor Team. So I think there's a way to get an accuracy if you want it, and like you have to pay a premium by spending a dice and having that card. And I think everyone has the opportunity to use that, and now you just have to use the old route instead of this route, and together you can still make the same stuff happen. It just costs a little bit more, I think. But I'm on board with it. You said you were sideways. But Badger, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on board with it. I like it. I think it's a good change. I would have kept her at 7 points, to be honest, but the drop down to 6 is fine. I see what Bodhi's saying, and I think that she was way too powerful when you got to choose. I thought maybe you should, like Varnillion, set a die on her at the beginning of the game, and that's the only face that you can change a die to. Whether that's an accuracy or a double, or if you're going to choose to use a black die, a hit crit, or even a blue die, like a crit or an accuracy, that's fine. But being able to roll your dice pool and see, oh, I have the accuracy I need to block the flotilla scatter, and so I'm going to change this to a double and guarantee the hit, or oh, I don't have the accuracy, so I need to change it to an accuracy to guarantee the kill. It was way too powerful, way too oppressive, and there are other ways to generate accuracies, especially in the Empire faction. We talked about Sensor Team, but we didn't talk about Captain Jonas. You get an automatic accuracy with Captain Jonas, and I think I see your point too, Josh, about stepping on the toes of other cards. So I think she's kind of in a weird spot now. I maybe would have liked for her to keep her ability and move her up to 10 points, where it's flexible, or choose at the beginning of each game, because now she's kind of in the Screed realm, or just other dice fixing things that you can to set, because there's also the weapons battery text where you can change a face with an accuracy icon to a face with a crit icon. So, talking about her stepping on other cards, there you go. But she does still pair well with Vermilion. You can use Vermilion and pick that die at the beginning if you're second player, and go from there.
All right. Good points, I think, all around. Up next, we have the Arkansas class command cruiser going from 59 to 55 points. This is kind of a little bit of a shock for me to see. And on the inside, I'm kind of elated. I will say a lot of the changes to these in this errata happened to almost every list that I've ever taken to a competitive event. I like to fly stuff that's like kind of janky and out there, stuff someone else is not going to fly or think of right off the bat. So this has dramatically changed my skirt list, is what I call it. Like skirt is in like tire screeching, because my floating Arkansans with ancient text just got 8 points cheaper. So it's going to be, I think this is going to be kind of insane. Also couple that with the Hand of Justice change. These guys just got a lot better. They're like, this is going to be a huge support ship with projection experts and Hand of Justice on it. So I see this as like a sideways thumb. I'm a little scared to see how this and the next Arkansans kind of change the meta. They're going to be real good support ships now. And then when you swarm them, you're going to get a lot of points back to do a lot of stuff with. So I'm kind of sideways on it. If anything, I'm like sideways to down by 1. Badger, Bodhi, what do you think?
I'll give it a one thumbs up. I think that 4 points is a pretty dramatic decrease. Architans are a fairly niche ship, or I guess were. Um, I don't know. I'm really bad at flying Architans, and I haven't flown them in a while. I'm gonna try and put them on the table again after this change and see how I feel then. But in theory, I think it's a really good thing.
They're pretty nasty. I will say you can dodge onager at front arcs or ignition shots with them. You can be super elusive. If you go last first, you can go speed 8. Like you can do that with like other ships too, but the amount of turning ability you can get on there is absolutely insane. Badger, what do you think?
Uh, so I'm going to address all of the ships at the same time, and
All the
I like
Imperials
that
or
they
just all in general?
all of, let's see, 4, 9, 12, 16 ships that they changed the points. I like that they touched points on ships that, especially the ones that don't get a lot of play. I think the Architans don't see a lot of play. But and so in that sense, I think it's a positive. But I really don't like that they buffed the uh, Empire and the Rebels so much. I mean, I don't think the Mark II-A needed to go down 4 points. And you look at the amount of points that dropped. Even well, okay, so even the Cis ship, the Dreadnought, it went down 8 points. That was the biggest drop of the game. But the Gar ships, like they only went down 2 points. One went down 3, and two went down 2. That's weak. I wish they would have touched the Venators a little bit. I think the Venator 2 is a little overcosted. Venator 1's a little overcosted. I think the Acclimators, both of them and both consulars are a little overcosted. But I so I want to like this change. I want to like that they took the ships that aren't played as much, like the MC-75 and the Pickles, and looked at them and said, "Hey, these aren't played as much. What can we do to help them out?" But you just buffed the two best factions the most, and then you buffed Separatists, who have been outperforming Rebels in a lot of cases recently, and then you're just like, Gar's fine in the basement. So I think they could have taken a little more care across the board with ships.
All right. Quite a statement right there. Let's see. I think I don't have much of an opinion about the Gar ships. I haven't played with them. I didn't buy them, partially because they weren't available. Really hard to find, but also I like the Cis more. So I don't have much of an opinion about them. I can't really say too much. But if we're talking about the next light cruiser, decrease from 54 to 52 points, I feel the same way. I'm a little bit nervous about what this is going to look like when we have swarms coming at us. It is, I mean, you can put, with all the points you're taking off, seeing a bunch of these guys, Intel officer on every single one of them with Darth Vader commander, is not out of the realm of possibility. And that might be pretty nasty. Do you guys have any other opinions about this guy?
Nothing different than the command cruiser. I think the light cruiser before the change, I prefer the light cruiser just because it's a bit more combat focused. I think now I'm kind of leaning towards liking the command cruiser a little bit more. It's got some interesting tricks, I guess, and I know, I'm excited to at least mess around with them, both of them.
Badger, do you have, I guess you already made your statement, right?
Yeah, and one thing I didn't say is I do wish they would have increased the points of a few ships. especially the GR-75, 18-point flotilla that is the workhorse of that faction, I think is too low. Maybe the 30s, but I hate 30, so that might be a little bias. But I do think that it seems like they only took the ones that don't see play and dropped them down. But the reason that those don't see play is because there's better options within that faction. And so I think they should have taken a look at, well, maybe some of these other options are a little too strong, especially when you can tack on the different titles and the different things they did. I mean, when they did the last errata, they increased onagers by 20 points. That was insane, but I think they kind of needed it. And in this errata, they didn't take into consideration some of the very strong and oppressive ships in this game and tweak their points upward. So I'm disappointed in their ship just across the board. Their ship changes.
Well, it's AMG. They don't really leave a whole lot to, or I guess they leave a lot to be desired.
Well, that's I'm gonna stop us right there. We're just gonna move on to the next one. Kazanti class assault carriers went from 28 to 26 points. I think that's good. This guy, you never took this guy unless you were running Ramadi and your name was Ian from Houston, who ran 2 of these with Simons and shot like 3 or 4. I guess there's 3 red dice from behind ISDs. It's nasty. So down to 26 points. I think that's a 2 thumbs up change. You never really saw these guys out on the table. Bodie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll give it a 1 thumbs up. I think that it's still going to be the case where the only reason that you're actually playing these is going to be with Ramadi. That's what I flew at Endor, was a Ramadi list with 2 of these guys, and they definitely felt overcosted for what they did. Now I think it's at least justified, but I mean, still, it's going to be a pretty niche pick, so nothing too crazy, but probably warranted, I guess.
Badger?
Yeah, I think it's bad. You're paying, so you compare the assault carriers to the cruisers now, and the reason you take the cruisers is an extra activation, extra deployment, push squads, utility with CommsNet and or Vader, or whatever the case may be, for cheap. And so now for 3 extra points, you can get an extra shot around because you got a red die out of the front. You can flak squads at longer range with blue dice. I think if they wanted to separate the 2 Gazantis by 3 points, then they should have increased the cruisers by 2 points instead of decreased the assault carriers by 2 points. I also think they should have just increased flotillas across the board, except for, we'll get to it later, but they dropped the points of the Gazani cruiser. I think that should have just stayed the same. The separatist one. But yeah, I think this one in particular is a bad change. I would have increased the other Gazani instead of decreased this one.
All right, so you're 1 thumb or 2 thumbs down?
I'll go 2 thumbs down. You're getting, the way I look at it is with a Confire dial, you're getting 2 red dice out of the front at long range, which is what a Venator shoots out of the front or the side. So you're matching the firepower of a ship that's more than 4 times as expensive as you. And you have an evade, so you're more survivable at long range. So their shots at you do less, coming back. I don't understand why this went down. Unless it's to incentivize people to take it over the other one, but then, like I said, it should have gone up. So yeah, I'll go 2 thumbs down on this change. I don't like it.
All right, the Victory 2 class Star Destroyer is up next. Went from 85 to 80 points. 5-point decrease. I love this change. So, like I said, a lot of lists that I've taken in the past have become much better after this errata. Because I took all the stuff that I wished was better and was not super great. But yeah, I took this to Worlds a couple years ago because I didn't feel like putting a list together to where I was like felt like I was going to give anything a good shot. I knew I wasn't that great of a player, so I wanted to fly something that was fun. So I took a Victory 2 with Warlord, Discaps. What else? I think I had Minister 2 on it, and then I had Maudie, Projection Expert, Hand of Justice on a Command Cruiser, flying in the back. And then I had Rogue Squads and Impetuous, I think, is the Corvus that, whatever, the Raider that shoots twice at squadrons. So I had a lot of fun flying that. I went 2-2 in the LCQ, and it was great. The whole time I was thinking, like this Star Destroyer is just I'm spending way too many points on it, but it's a lot of fun to fly. And now with all these changes and the last errata, I think the Victory 2 actually has its own niche now. Before you would never take it because it was too much, and then when you would take it and kit it out, it would be just as much as the Onager that you wanted. So you can just take that instead. But now you have this, which is great because now you can put disc caps and gunnery team on it. And H9s, Warlord. And it becomes a really good DPS little guy. It does work better with if you put Nita Officer or Modi with it. But I give this one 2 thumbs up. I think this was needed. I think that the Victory Star Destroyer has a place on the table now in competitive Armada with all these changes. Bodhi, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I don't have too much to add. I think that specifically the Vic 2 was already fairly decent, just like a long range kind of sniper thing with decaps, like you said. 5 points is a pretty significant decrease, and I think that this is definitely something that people should have on their radars. It's weak to a few things in the meta, like thermals kind of wrecks its day, but still, if you just Christmas tree out this Victory, it's still going to be cheaper than an ISD, and you get just about the same firepower. So it's going to be pretty sweet. 2 thumbs up.
I don't like it. I mean, I'll be the dissent here. Shout out to Interceptor. He runs Vic 2s. He plays it really well. Vic 2 with a demo, some squads. He's the best Vic 2 player I've ever seen, and that's partly because there aren't a lot, but he plays it really well. That's not to take away from his ability, but he doesn't have very much competition. I don't know if this was the right direction. So for 50%, and this is the way I look at it, 50% more points now gets you an ISD 2 with 1 extra dot, 1 extra red, 1 extra blue out of the front, 1 extra blue out of the side, a contained defense token, 3 extra hull, 1 extra squad command, 1 extra blue anti-flak die. Like, I think it was appropriately priced at 85 points. I just think that the other ones were, like, if you wanted more firepower, you just upgraded. But now at 80 points, I fear double Vic 2 lists. 2 Vic 2s with decaps and vet gunners and quad battery turrets and HIEs. I mean, at long range, if you're going slow, that's 7 dice out of the front, 4 blues, 3 reds. You can re-roll them all. You can spend your accuracies first and then re-roll them all with vet gunners. And your blue crits add 3 to your damage for 80 points and less than 20 points worth of, right at about 20 points worth. So an 100-point ship. I mean, again, you compare that to like a Venator, a naked Venator, and it's just astronomically better. So I think these are way too powerful now. But we'll see. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, there is going to be a large shift in the meta. I think you'll see more of these. I don't know if you'll see swarms of them, but with the other changes that we're going to talk about later, they are becoming like very good for their point cost. And I think we'll see we'll see some of them. I don't know if you'll see them on the top table at Worlds. The difficulty with these guys still is though that they are absolutely garbage at maneuvering. So if you get out of their front arc, or if you're able to flank them, then a lot of their damage potential just goes out the window. And maybe you take him with JJ. I don't know, but
Yeah, I just want to butt in real fast that yeah, it looks a little bit scary at face value, but you got to remember that these guys are speed 2. They're technically 88 points if you want them to like actually compete with anything else in the game, and then you have to be spamming nav with them or have some kind of token, offset. And even
Are
then,
they 88 points?
I mean, like, because you got to put engine techs. Like a speed 2 ship in
You can't take
2025.
engine techs. They don't have a fleet
with
support
Harrow,
team.
you got to
slot.
take it with
Harrow.
Harrow.
Yeah, so I guess it'd be 91 points. Because I feel like that you have to be playing that in order for it to be viable, and
Or
decreasing
you
it by
just-
5 points offsets the.
Or you just go speed 1 and use your QBTs and nav every turn, and now you get 2 clicks at 1, and you can turn plenty fine. Like, I don't know. I don't.
I don't know. We'll see. I really don't want to spend too much time arguing about things now. We can maybe go in depth in a different episode, but I feel like
Sure.
the longer if we argue on things, we'll be here all night.
Yeah. One point I did
But-
want to bring up that with Worlds coming up so quick, I don't think that this update gives people enough time to flesh out the meta. So I don't know if what's flown at Worlds will be a very good idea of what the meta will look like next year, even if there are no more updates. I think people are. It's definitely not enough time to figure everything out and to find hidden gems and hidden combinations.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot to unpack in this update.
All right, moving on to next, we have the Aggressor Assault Fighter goes from 16 to 15 points, a drop of 1 point. To me, this is just kind of a 1 thumbs up. It's like nice, but they still suffer from being speed 3. And overall, do you want to take this or do you want to take Interceptors with Reserve Hanger deck? I don't know. So 1 thumbs up for me. I just think it's in the right direction. And it's reasonably costed now. Like 16 was a little steep. 15's like okay. Bodie, what do you think about the Aggressor?
I think aggressors are pretty interesting. There's I've considered flying them in the past because in theory they're fairly similar to YT 2400s. I think that being at 15 points makes them worth their cost, and honestly, I think that there's some pretty interesting builds that involve a lot of Imperial rogues. So I'm going to give this 2 thumbs up. I haven't brewed anything yet with them, but I definitely plan on it.
Yeah, I like the change. I like that it's taking a fighter that you don't see a lot and making it better. So maybe you'll see it more often. I don't know if the change was enough that we'll start seeing them. I think maybe people will try them out at 15 points, but I think the Imperial Squadron meta is pretty solidified with what it can do and what it wants to do. Swarm, Reserve Hanger decks, TIE fighters, and TIE interceptors are, I think, always going to reign supreme. And it's just giving more options to a faction that doesn't need it. And I think that buffing this fighter isn't going to do anything for it, and that's going to reinforce the point of it didn't need it. So I like the idea, but I don't know if it was impactful. So I'll give it 1 thumb up.
All right. Boba Fett, 26 to 24 points. I give this one 2 thumbs up. I think almost any squadron that's over 24 points, it just seems unreasonable to take at any point in the game. Aside from Mordecai. So I give this one thumbs up. I think it's in the right direction. I'd like to see this guy get played more.
I'll give it a sideways thumb. I still don't think that Boba Fett's going to see much play. Like you said, 20, like above 20 points starts to be like questioning whether you want an ace, and there's only a few things that can justify it. This puts him at the same cost as Lando, and I don't think there's any reason why like you'd want a Boba Fett strength squadron at a Lando price point. So he's gonna maybe see a little fringe play, but your ace slots are packed in Empire anyway, and yeah, I don't see him seeing any competitive play.
What do you think, Honey Badger?
Same as the aggressor. I like Boba Fett. He's a very iconic character. I wish he was played more. But I think that the Imperial meta is pretty solidified. Not to spoil our next thing, but I think the one squadron that did get a price increase, people are going to make room for and figure it out because he's just that good. And none of the other squadrons got a point increase, so they're just going to stay how they are. Maybe you downgrade an interceptor to a TIE fighter, and it's worth it to keep the other guy in. So I maybe in kind of niche style lists, Boba Fett will see a little bit more play. I like him. I like his ability. I like his stat lines. He was fun to play. He's balanced to play against. But I don't think kind of the theme is the reason that he's not played isn't because he was overcosted. It's because they just have things that are so much better, and they're going to fill that A slot with something that's a lot better. So I'll give it one thumb up. Move in the right direction, but not consequential.
I agree. All right, up next is Colonel Jendon, who goes from 20 to 23 points. Our second price increase. I think this is warranted. Like, they are trying to nerf the MMJ meta. Just Colonel Jendon and Jendon. Oh my god, I cannot talk. Pardon me. Colonel Jendon, in general, gives you so much utility. Like, whatever squadron you have, it gets better. And the same is true for like Ader Town and the Rebels. I get that. But you also get Relay 2 out of this guy, which is super good. So I see this as a step that's like nice. It didn't need to happen. I think they could have like nerfed some other stuff instead. Like if you just nerfed Merrick and increased the points by like 1, and then maybe I don't know. You could have done it multiple different ways. This is the way they chose to do it. I think it's probably a step in the right direction. I'll give it 1 thumbs up.
I'm going to give it 2 thumbs down. I think that this is not nearly enough. I think this is enough for Jendon himself. But given that this is the only change to Imperial, like the current Imperial meta squadron ball, I just don't think that it's going to really affect the things. All of my fleets that relied on Jendon and Merrick, I've already adjusted to fit 3 points. Some of them completely unconsequential. The meta Imperial balls were already kind of on the lower end, sitting around 120 points, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. And, it's not like you're hitting any caps. The only thing that you're going to be having to give up is some bid, or maybe you're cutting an upgrade. And with the Vader change, the officer, you're probably cutting him. That's one of the points out of the 3 that you need to fit. I think that, like you said, I mean, his ability it's a force multiplier. We've known since like wave 3, wave 2, that Jendon is one of the most powerful squadrons in the game, and I really don't think this is going to be enough to actually change things. I think that the fleet's going to still be good, and you don't have to say goodbye to guaranteed 4 damage anymore. Or yeah.
It sounds like you want to give it a thumbs up then, right?
No, I want I was kind of hoping for at least something to bridge the gap, like make it so that you would want to consider other options. And Jendon still finds a place in almost every, if not every single Imperial squad ball over 100 points.
But it's a step in the right direction for you, right?
I don't think so. I think that I guess it's a step, but it doesn't feel like it. Like it's better than nothing, but it's not going to compound. So like I feel like any worthwhile changes that come out of this update are to fleets that are affected by multiple things. Like realistically, your fleet has a Vic-2, and that's the only thing that's affected out of this entire document. Sure, you have 5 more points to play around with, but that's really not going to affect your fleet as a whole. The things that are going to see a lot better, like a lot more play because of this change, are affected by 3-4 different things or the same thing multiple times. So stuff like, I don't know, like your Architans list that gets to reduce the cost of 5 from 4 different ships. And just like adding a 3-point tax to Jendon does not change how versatile he is. It does not change how omnipresent he is. All it does is make you like it's not going to change the list as a whole. It just might change like one upgrade card. And I don't think that that is good enough to combat something that we have seen in every single tournament since Merrick and Jendon have been in the game. I think that an ability like an actual text change would have been more interesting, or affecting both Merrick and Jendon if you're just going to do points. But yeah, I don't think that this is enough.
All right, Badger, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a step in the right direction. Sure, I would have rather them done this than do nothing, but I don't think it's even close to a solution to the problem. The problem is Jendon and Merrick, Jendon and Vader, Jendon and Saber. Change him to only affect non-unique squadrons. His ability you can only ping a non-unique, and I'm fine with that. Leave him at 20 points, and that completely fixes everything. You don't have to increase points across the board on everybody. Although I do think Steel should have probably gone up, 2 points to 23, regardless of what you do with Jendon. But yeah, I don't think that this. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You're just going to find 3 extra points. Like I said, how many squad balls do you see that are 134s that have a TIE interceptor in them? All right, now you drop the interceptor for a TIE fighter. Or maybe you don't quite need the flexibility of one of your other aces, and so you drop that to achieve, like drop Sienna to
With Maul or Mythil?
yeah, or Valen. Like they have so many options that 3 points is nothing when trying to address the Wonder Twin problem of Jendon and Jendon +1, whatever. So I agree. I don't like it.
Yep, 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I think I've said all I have to say about it. Gar Saxon next went from 23 to 20 points. That's nice. Nice of him to do that. But I still don't think we're going to see him too much. We might see him in, I think, maybe like one list in Worlds. We'll see. And that's going to be a lot of people with the way tickets are selling. And if they open up more. So I give this, it's 2 thumbs up. I like it.
This will get a sideways thumb for me. I think Gar Saxon sucks not because of his cost, but because of his ability. It's like way too niche, especially in this faction. And I don't think that he's going to see any play, even at 20 points.
Are you sure you don't have a thumb up? Like, this is like, Maybe we should talk about how our thumbs work. Like
Maybe we should. I'm giving things like if so like a step in the right direction for me, like is going to be something that makes me want to play. You know that I guess a one thumb like is gonna still see play. I don't know. I guess it's like just my thumbs are based off of my feelings on the change. And in instances like this, where I wasn't playing Gar before and I'm still not going to play him now, it's just like a middle of the road thing. Like, I don't hate it. I appreciate the change. Someone might enjoy it, but I just don't care.
okay, for me, my thumbs are two thumbs is like this is the right direction. I love this change. Maybe I would like to see more of it. One thumb is like uh I like this change. I also could have gone without it. And then indifferent is like I don't really see any change or difference in this. And then I feel emotionally negative. Either one where it like to a degree with one or two thumbs. Yeah. So that's what my thumbs mean. All right. Honey Badger, what do you got with this guy?
Yeah, I like sure thumb up. It's inconsequential to change in the right direction because it's a squadron. It's just a broken record at this point. Squadron that doesn't see play that needs a buff because it doesn't get played. But there's no room for him. Like if you rank all of the Imperial aces, what are there like 18 or something? Let's just for argument's sake say well there's more than that. 23, 28. All right, so 28 Imperial, well, no, some of those. 25. 25 Imperial aces. Where did Gar Saxon rank before? Like 25th, 24th, maybe? Where does he rank now? Like 20th, maybe? 21st, 22nd? You only get 4 ace slots, and he doesn't do enough to justify putting him in a list. If he was 12 points, I don't think we would see him played.
I'd pay 12 points for the brace,
but it's a single brace. I mean, like
yeah. Even then, like 12 points is so extreme that that's what I would consider playing him.
you would consider play him.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And that's just because that's if you're running a screen and you're like I'm gonna upgrade one of my TIE fighters to Gar Saxon. That's not if you're running a 134 because you're still not gonna remove another ace for him. He takes up an ace slot. So yeah, I think thumbs up, move in the right direction. Doesn't really do anything for the game at all. Next.
Up next is IG88B. No, A. We'll just talk about both of them, A and B. I guess it's no A. Excuse me. 21 to 19 points for the lot of them. I give this 2 thumbs up. I think it's great. I think it actually should be 18 points because they do not have the survivability of a lot of the other aces in Imperial faction. Like all of the interceptors have a brace scatter. These guys just have a scatter. And so you're paying a 1 point premium for their ability and some consistency with bombing. But aside from that, like they have speed 5, this is the same speed. They have 2 more hull, but they don't stick around as long. So I think they could have dropped it. They need another like 1 or 2 points, and it would have been okay with me. So 2 thumbs up for me. I think maybe more. Bobby.
Yeah, I don't know. It's another sideways, I guess. I think that the one that lets you ignore counter, I think that's the text on it. Whichever one that is, might see some fringe play. Once you're below 20 points, it kind of puts you in the territory of maybe you consider this for a light scream kind of thing. You're definitely not putting either of these in 134. But having some versatility to get around common keywords may give that IG88 a little bit of a boost. So I guess I'll give it a 1 thumbs up. The IG88 that is the Death Blossom, that one's just kind of negative, or I guess like a mid thumbs. I still don't think that the ability is particularly strong. It's niche timing at 19 points doesn't do it its justice. So, eh.
Game. I mean, you're not going to take these guys. You might. I don't know, but I like them. I like both of their abilities and the uniqueness and everything. I like a point that somebody in the chat made. I think it was earlier today or yesterday that IG-88B is the Death Blossom one. He has like a quasi escort because if you plop him in the middle of a squad ball, they're gonna want to shoot him. And I mean, maybe he has some sort of place with rapid launch bays where you can just put him down in the middle of a squad ball, but you can't do that with flight controllers anymore after you move now. So it's tough. It's tough to get him to survive to use his ability because it's at the start of the squadron phase. The IG-88, pause for a blank there, allowing you to ignore escort and counter. I like that one because it makes him a killing machine. It's like, no, I want to go after this target, and you're not going to stop me. Shara be damned. Like, I like that, but he only has 4 blues. Sure, he has counter 2, which is kind of cool, but yeah, only 1 token. So you only need 1 accuracy against him. You have to shoot him twice with most things. So you have to get an accuracy twice to stop the scatter, but it's just kind of underwhelming, even at 19. And it's not going to change up the Imperial Squadron meta. So 1 thumb up, right direction, no effect.
All right. Up next, the Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter, which goes from 20 to 18 points. Similar to the Gar Saxon, I feel like this is good. 2 thumbs up. I think you could have even dropped it down because this guy's not going to get much play. So there you go. 20 to 18 points. These guys don't have rogue, do they?
I think they do. Do they not?
Yeah, the Gauntlet Fighters have rogue. They have rogue and assault. It's 2 blues and a red, 2 blue anti-ship, non-bomber, 4 speed, 7 hull, rogue and assault. So assault can be mildly annoying sometimes, but are you gonna invest 18 points in hoping to get an assault off? I don't know.
There's no synergy in the Imperial faction with the raids, so there's not really any necessity to have this. So like maybe you can block somebody from getting their dial, but in all likelihood the answer is like no, you're not, because there's all kinds of stuff they can do to fix that problem, including maybe veteran captain or Hondo. So
You know what I wish they
these
would have
guys aren't going
done
to see much play.
with some of these things, like Boba Fett, the fire sprays, the Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter, the Aggressor, all of these squads that they touched that don't see a lot of play at all. I wish they would have just taken the faction restriction off of them, and that would
That's an
have
interesting thought.
done so much more for the game than I mean, change the points too. If you think that they're undercosted, but I mean, these guys are bounty hunters. They're fringe. You know, they're not loyal to the Empire. So why are they Imperial squadrons? Just because they're the ones that hired them in the movies? Whatever. Yeah, take the faction restrictions off of them and let all of the factions use them, and then see if they get play and see how balanced they are or where they stand in the meta.
Well, yeah, we maybe you can use that for your elevation this podcast. All right, up next we have Whisper Squadron. I am super psyched about this. This squadron never got play ever. There was a special card that was released for it in if you won in like the top 16 of what was it? The like regionals, I forget what they're called. But yeah, I got that card because I played Imperial. Pretty sick. I like it. 18 points. Maybe she'll see play this time. I'm 2 thumbs up on this one.
Yeah, you didn't mention at the beginning. She used to be 20, now she's 18. I don't know. I think the Phantoms are pretty bad, so I don't know why I would want the Ace version. So I'll give it a medium thumbs.
I give it a 1 thumb up. I like the Phantoms. I like Whisper just because they're different, and the double red anti ship. I still like rolling the dice with that with Sloan. I think they could have probably touched the TIE Phantoms also and brought them down to, maybe 12 points. But I should have just recorded myself saying this, and I could have played the recording over and over. It's inconsequential. It's not going to shake up the Imperial Squadron meta. It bumped it up a few slots on the Ace ranking, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, that's a good point. I really don't think a lot of our tier listing that we did is going to change too much after all these.
The other thing is you look at like
sorry.
TIE Phantoms and especially Whisper at 20 points. She's 4 speed, 4 hull, brace scatter, and then you compare her to other 4 speed, 4 hull, brace scatter aces like Shara and Tycho that are much less points than her. I think they're even 5 speed. They're 16 and 17 points, and they do so much more with the counter and their abilities. They're only 3 anti-squad blue die though, but they're black anti-ship non-bomber, so more consistently, especially against PDICs. She's overcosted there, and then you compare her to GAR squads that are 4 speed, 4 hull, brace scatter, and she's 6 points less than Anakin, 5 points less than Ahsoka, 5 to 6 to 8 points less than everybody else. So I just don't understand quite where the points idea comes from, and that's another reason why I don't think it's consequential enough to change the meta.
I agree. All right, we're going to move on to the titles. Corruptor goes from 5 to 3 points. This title is the one where if you have it on a victory, the squadrons with bomber, the bomber keyword, will go 1 speed faster. This is huge, actually. So you can have like a victory with expanded hangar bay, use corruptor, and then all fighters follow me, and then you can make a fire spray goes to feed 5. So it's pretty nutty. Pretty nutty. I don't know if I give this 2 thumbs up. I give this like 1 thumb up, but maybe it wasn't even necessary if you drop the points on the victory too. So what do you think, Bodhi?
I'll give it 1 thumbs up. I think that Hero is always going to be the default title for your first victory, unless you're doing something like silly and niche. I think Corruptor, like you said, the Speed 5 Fire Spray, that's the reason that you're doing this thing. Feels a little bit better to have it at 3. I'll give it 1 thumbs up because of that. I'm definitely a little bit more inclined to try it. And I know, yeah, it seems like a fun card, but it's something that I'm more interested in trying than some of these other things. But it's not like it's going to be breaking the game in half.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this card is pointless. TIE Defenders are speed 5, so they're maxed out. TIE Bombers are speed 4, so whoop-de-doo, they can go speed 5. And then Fire Sprays, they can go 4, like you said, 5 if you use the fleet command, but they're rogues. Like, if you're commanding your rogues, you're paying too much for Rogue. So I don't know how to make this better. It's just not good. Not worth 3 points. It's not going to see play. One thumb up for a change in the right direction, but inconsequential.
All right, up next is Dominator from 12 to 7 points. This was one of the most expensive titles in the game. It might have been the most expensive, but it was a relic of Wave Zero. I think, right? I think this maybe not. No, I think Corruptor. Now I'm lost. Anyway, this is like Wave One, Wave Two, like early on. Real ancient stuff for Armada. But going from 12 to 7 points is great. I love this card. This was one of my first things that I did whenever I got into Armada was boost, take away the shields, add 2 dice, and then just roll lots of dice with Vix. It was a lot of fun. The fact that it's going down to 7 points makes it viable a little bit. I think it might maybe you can make it even cheaper. I don't know. But let's see. Yeah, I could see it being a little cheaper just because it's a title. Maybe 5 points. I don't know. Maybe I just sound insane. Maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, "Who is this guy and what is he smoking?" All right, I'll give it 2 thumbs up. I like it. Hopefully Dominator sees some play, and it's a little bit of a change. It's kind of like a sister card to Price. What do you think, Bodie?
Dominator is going to see some play, and I don't know if it's going to be like competitive play, but 7 points feels very reasonable for this. You were correct that this was Wave Zero. Came out in the core set. Been 12 points ever since. This was one of the first cards that I really started messing around with, and it just feels fun. Like, it feels good to just add in a whole bunch of dice. And I was kind of matching on Price being useless because you trade 1 shield for a double basically, and Dominator isn't much better than that. But the key part is that this is a title. Granted, it's your Harrow slot, so I'm not sure if it's really that much better. But the officer is much more key in my opinion. So I don't know. I think that this will get it'll get a 2 thumbs up for me just because I haven't been positive in a while. I think that somebody somewhere is going to make Dominator work again.
I don't know. I think the card's just bad. Maybe with the decrease of the point for the victory and the decrease in Dominator, you'll see it. You can take victory Dominator for pretty much the price of an old victory now. It's kind of cool. I guess if you really need some extra dice at close to medium, but I like it on the Vic 1 because you don't have blue dice, so you can maybe try and get some accuracies. So if you have Dominator on Vic 1 and maybe Vet Gunners, you can really fish for some accuracies to try and get your damage through. So I like it. It's growing on me. 1 thumb up.
Nice. Like the positivity. Up next is Hand of Justice, which goes from 4 points to 2 points. And I love this change. I absolutely love this card. I took it beforehand, like I said in my worlds list. It is super powerful. You captain or minister to it on another ship, and then ECM, and then you ready it again for when you're going to get shot again. It's really good with a victory because then you can spend your brace twice instead of having to wish you had a second brace. And then you can also put like a lot of stuff on there to mitigate damage, like 7th Fleet, or even if you didn't take Minister to it, you could put on Expert Shield Tech. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
I'll give
Uh,
it a one thumbs up. I think that at 4 points, if you were taking an Architens, like, you had to think about, you had to consider Hand of Justice. At 2 points, a title slot, Senecor's pretty niche. There's one fleet that I can think of that really relies on Senecor. And taking the title slot on your Architens for only 2 points for a decently strong effect. Um, I could see this being stapled in a way. Any time that you take an Architens, now you're just taking Hand of Justice. So yeah, I'll give it one thumbs up.
I don't remember if I said thumbs. I have no thumbs for this actually. I don't. I think it was reasonably costed at 4 points, but at 2 points it's going to be taken all the time. So I have no thumbs. What do you think? What about you?
Yeah, I don't think this needed an increase. I mean, you already decreased the cost of Architens. Why does this title need an increase? The place I see this the most is with SSDs. So they can ready their defense tokens, and you can put expert shield techs on an Architens and Hand of Justice and support your SSD. So maybe that's cooler, but I don't know. I think it was fine at 4.
How many thumbs you got?
One thumb down. Maybe they're trying to make it compete with Senecor, but they just have way too many. It's just completely different. If you're taking Senecor, you're taking it because that fits your list, not because you're looking for a title to put on your Architens.
Okay, all right. Up next we have Stronghold, which went from 5 points to 3 points, a 2 point decrease. I think this was it's an okay choice. I don't really have any opinion about this. Stronghold is people may not know because it's rarely taken, but it says while a friendly squadron with swarm is at distance 1 to 2 and is defending, the attack is treated as obstructed. So essentially, what you're doing is you're getting uh, a selective jamming barrier, whereas opposed to the attacks and defenses of all squadrons at distance 1 to 2 are obstructed, you're actually getting only a benefit for your squadrons unless the other guy has swarm. So, oh no, it says friendly squadron. My bad. So yeah, this card does not get seen, and that's why I'm tripping over it. But from 5 points to 3 points, I think that's a positive move. It kind of gives some flavor to the Quasar instead of it being just a squall. Um, so I see this as positive. I'll give it 2 thumbs up.
Well, yeah, if you don't mind, I'm gonna group my Squall take in with this one. Just for the listener, Squall was from 3 points down or up to 7. So Squall got nerfed, Stronghold got buffed. I think the Squall nerf is warranted because it was kind of the de facto Quasar title for a rightful reason. Like, it's very powerful, the things you can do. The issue with buffing Stronghold is that Quasars, as soon as they get like flicked at, they die. And Stronghold wants your stuff to be at distance 1 to 2, and if your squadrons are getting attacked at distance 1 to 2, that probably means that your Quasar is too close to the engagement. That's why Squall was so powerful, because you could move things away from the Quasar and get it into engagement with opponent's squadrons or ships without endangering the Quasar itself. So I'm going to give both of these a thumbs down. I think that the Squall, Squall was oppressive, but I don't think points is what needed to be changed about it. I think that the issue was more in the fact that you were getting extra bonuses from strategic. And like, granted, positioning is always good, but I think that the fleets that want Squall are going to pay the 4-point premium. You're just going to see Squall a little bit less, and the fleets that don't need it, you're not going to see it. I think that the stronghold change is not going to affect anything. I don't think that any Quasar is going to want to take this card. And the reason that I wanted to group them together is because I wanted to draw attention to the third Quasar title, Pursuant, which is like basically, if you were to take any dial that's not a squadron, you can resolve a free squadron dial. And the reason that I think this is key when it's paired with Skilled First Officer, you're able to basically spam squadrons. And then on the turn where your Quasar is in danger, you can Skilled First Officer to a nav and then run away while still being able to activate squadrons. And I think that this may just prove what I've been saying for a while, that Pursuant is just the best Quasar title in general, because Pursuant helps keep you safe, and it lets you play with your squadrons at a farther range with boosted comms. So I don't think that the individual changes are going to do anything, because Pursuant was already the best, but now it's just going to be seen more as the best.
So I think that I don't think that Stronghold needed points decrease because I don't think Imperial squads need a buff. And so most notably recently, Mac large package ran Stronghold at LVO, and day one he dominated. He went 3-0, 26 tournament points. Second place was 2-1 with 22. So he did really well with Stronghold, and I was actually just kind of looking at making a Stronghold list work, and then I started to build something out, and then I looked at his list, and it's like the exact same thing with Gorin, flight controllers, reserve hangar deck. I'd put, either TIE fighters or TIE interceptors. It makes you have a screen that is very impactful, because at distance 1 to 2 isn't that close. It's a pretty good distance whenever you have your squadron base just barely on the cusp of distance 2, and then you have an extra distance 1 after that, so the squadron is engaged with other squads. And then you combine it with Gorin, so your TIE interceptors now have counter 3 with Swarm, or your TIE fighters now have counter 1 with Swarm. I think it's a very good screen build. I just don't think that people invest that much in screens to keep their ISD alive or whatever it is, because the ISD can just go speed 3 and run off. But I definitely think Squall should have got hit, and that's the next one, as Bodhi alluded to. Definitely think that should have got nerfed. It did. 2 thumbs up on that one. But I don't think Stronghold should have got buffed. So I'm going to go 1 thumb down on that.
All right. Well, to close up the conversation about Stronghold, I think that Stronghold is more of like a alpha breaking title more than a like I'm going to dive in title. So it kind of makes your TIE fighters last a little bit longer than they normally would, especially against someone that's like squalling you to alpha you. So you just hold them close by, close to your chest, and send them out after. Or maybe flak whenever people dive in on you. So I do agree with Bodhi 100%. I think Pursuant is the better title out of all of these. And it always has been. Actually, the way I would fly Quasars, I haven't flown them because I haven't flown them because they were too meta. But I would put actually Captain Nita on there, and then fly at long range, and then keep engineering tokens on there. Move shields around instead of redirecting. So I'll go ahead and give my take on Squall, since we've already been there. For everybody else, I think it is a good move. 7 points is rather steep. I think they could have just gone up to 5 points maybe, but it's fine. I'll just give this 1 thumbs up. That wraps up our picks, our talking points on all the Imperial stuff. I will say one thing I think that they missed was the OG Vader in the TIE Advance. I think they should have touched up or added that guy a little bit. All right, we're going to move on to the Rebel Alliance here. I'm probably going to have us do just this section and then we'll trim it so that the audio doesn't get too long for the bot that we're using. But to start off here, we've got Cham Syndulla, and there's a clarification that you can look at all the command dials of the opponent's ship prior to choosing new commands for them. This is meaningful in the fact that you kind of allow or like go away from what they were trying to do, so you can avoid what their game plan was, which is I like it. It's a good strong pick. So for Cham, I think that is I think that's like a 2 thumbs up. I think it's nice. It gives you a reason to take a boarding team in the Rebel Alliance where it's really difficult sometimes to get those to work in. And I'll just go ahead and rope in Shriv in there. We went from 6 to 4 points. I don't see this necessarily as a positive. I'm ambivalent about it. I don't think it was necessary, but I'm okay with it. I fly Rebels and I fly this guy in the profundity quite a bit, so I could have 1 thumb up on Cham, or maybe 2 thumbs up on Cham, and then Triv I have like maybe even a 1 thumb down. What do you think, Bodhi?
So the Cham change was not a change. You could already look at all the dials. It just cleared up some wording. So I really don't care. I wasn't flying Cham before. Shriv, on the other hand, I am going to give this 2 thumbs up. I think that, and I kind of alluded to this when we touched on Vader earlier, but Vader boarding team is now the cheapest Vader, and Shriv is only 1 point more expensive. And I think that these guys are going to completely ruin the meta as it stands right now. Right now, the power of large ships is being able to survive because of your defensive retrofit. And both of these boarding teams just rip that away. If you're struggling with thermal shields or ECM, you can just bring a 3 or 4 point upgrade. And if you get in close range and spend the low price of 1 squadron token, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Patrick won LVO with a really interesting gratis list that ironically got like an insane amount of points decrease from this upgrade. But he was flying Shriv on a profundity drop-in hammerhead, and the combo was to strip away their defensive retrofit and then use home 1 to generate the accuracy. And I think that is going to define what people are building around coming to Worlds. I think that if you're used to running, your invincible Providence with your double defensive retrofit, and you're planning on surviving because of the power of thermals plus EWS, and someone drops Shriv on you, you're gonna die. I kind of made the hot take before we started recording that this might be a world where like large ships are just bad. And I'm probably overvaluing these guys. But I really, really do think that they're going to completely shake things up. I think that this is one of the changes that incentivizes close range combat. And it's really scary. I mean, like this change and the Vader change, incentivizing Vader boarding team, make me really, really want to consider different options for what I was wanting to lock in for Worlds. So just keep those things in mind. Now, all that being said, I think it's going to be a fun and interesting shakeup. So that's why it gets the double thumbs for me.
I hate it. I don't think the Rebels needed to be buffed. I don't think they needed more options. This just takes a good faction and makes them better. It gives them more stuff to do. There are strong fleets that look at stuff like this and they get stronger, and it's it can be a nightmare to play against. And I mean, Bodhi nailed it. Like, you can take a 44-point hammerhead torpedo and drop it out of profundity that has X-Rax and Shriv. And so now you're shooting for 44 points. You're stripping their defensive retrofit or whatever upgrade you want, because it's gunnery, weapons team, supports team, offensive retrofit, defensive, their turbo laser slot, their ion cannon slot, their ordnance slot. So you can take away PDICs. Like, I can drop this in, strip your PDICs, and then hit you with my front arc for a rainbow, and then hit you with my side arc for 3 blacks for 44 points. And then if I have Grail's Honor, I can ram you to do a face up for 48 points for a naked raider. I don't know. I think it's a little too good, and I'm scared of what it can do. So I don't like it.
You said 2 thumbs down or 1 thumb down?
Because of profundity, I'm gonna say 2 thumbs down, because at least with Radis, he has the text that says that ship cannot be the first ship to activate that round. And so you can Radis and Profundity, and then the Profundity ship can be the first ship to activate. So, yeah, I think 2 thumbs down. I don't enjoy that drop out of hyperspace right in your face meta that I see coming. But we'll see.
Okay. I have an opinion. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but this has always been the case. This is the drop in 2 points of here is pretty inconsequential. And I will say the best, like the boarding teams meta, like this might draw attention to it. It's always been there. And I was flying this a while back, like a year ago. And Shriv is good, but the overload pulse is better. Shriv, you cannot block, I will say. The best thing you can do with Shriv is roll up to like an ISD with Mahdi, and then strip the reinforced blast doors to do essentially 3 damage before you roll your dice. And that's like the most efficient use of him I've seen. But the real nasty thing is you take overload pulse on a CR90, dump it off from a profundity, and then you do boarding troopers on the next activation from your profundity, and you flip and remove 3 defense tokens from play. So you get to brace. If you're an SSD, you can brace my CR90, and then you know what? That is going to go speed 4 and fly off into long range or wherever. I'll take a shot with my MC75, and then by the time I activate, you're going to have no braces, and you're going to lose one of your redirects for sure. And it's nasty. Like, you can do that to a lot of ships, and it's OP a little bit. Like, it's scary. The way you defeat it is you take DCO, which is like, DCO has always been an exceptional officer that people don't take, and I don't talk about it enough. But when I was flying against my buddy Trent, who had the SSD list, who was developing that meta, we found that like DCO was the thing you need stapled to the SSDs actually. Whenever APTs or something come along that give you the crit to slow you down by like 1 speed when you're going speed 1, that's like the death knell for all the SSDs. But in general, this meta has always been here, lurking behind that. Like, it's always been around. This change from 6 to 4 points, I don't think changes too much. But you might see more of it just because, people talk about it now instead of you see it every now and then. There was one list last year that was super good. I think it almost won. Oh, I don't know. It like day 2 of LVO, I think there was a guy who's running it, and it was similar to my list because I had Shriv, but he had Overload Pulse, and like I'm not the best player, but that was a better list than mine because he had Overload Pulse on his CR90. Anyway,
Yeah,
I forget his
I've
name.
uh very first tournament I ever went to was Gen Con 2022, I think, and I played Iced Becker round 2, and he had Profundity, Corvette B, Overload Pulse, Radish Drop, the whole nine, and um, tabled me in like round 2 or 3, and it was ridiculous. So I'm well aware of how strong the Overload Pulse and boarding troopers can be. But if you look at Shriv, it's going down 2 points, and then you combine that with the MC75 that goes down 5 points, maybe now you have enough room because you don't have to decide this stuff when you build your list. You decide it when you get to the table and you look at your opponent's list. And so now you say, okay, do I want to put, I put a Hammerhead Torpedo with Shriv and a CR90B in my list. Which one do I want to put in Profundity? Which one's going to help me out the best? And so it gives you even more options. And some cases it's going to be Overload Pulse. In some cases it's going to be Shriv. But that's the list I fear, that you can choose either or, and there's just there's no way to combat that when your opponent's stacking up so much firepower on deployment.
I will say, after flying this at several tournaments, the way you defeat this is you have multiple ships because the big drop is going to happen essentially on one ship. And so you kind of do your best to keep that one alive as long as possible. It's going to be a Kirsta MC75, and it's going to be an absolute tank and really difficult to try and take down. So if you're flying against it, you want to kill essentially everything but the MC75 and then GTFO. That's kind of how you beat that list. Um, it is possible to take down the MC75, but you have to focus fire. Like that's uh, just how you got to do it.
So you just
Okay,
bring a
let's
list
just.
that can counter it. That's what you're saying.
I mean, yeah, it's Armada, bro. There's something out
Okay.
there. If you're scared about the thing, you're going to run into the thing you're not scared of, and then like you're gonna lose to it. I think because you'll be too focused on other things. But yeah, you brought up the changes to the ships. Like we'll get to that more here in a second, but it's an interesting choice. Some of those. General Draven is up next. He went from a whopping 28 points down to 20, and he's still garbage. So, I mean, if you want a cheap commander and you don't want to take what's his face Dodonna for whatever reason, you can take this guy now. You can make it give yourself a little anti cheat so you can see what people are doing so they can't change their dials. So that's it's kind of okay. It's all right for 20 points. Meh. I'll give this like two thumbs up. It's the right direction. It's a drastic change, but I have so many more thumbs to give if you would change the card to make it work better. Cody, what do you got?
I first of all want to know how many thumbs you've got, because if you've been cheating me, then we're gonna have some issues. Um, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of opinions on Draven. I think that he's still one of the worst commanders in the faction. Uh, I think that I gotta give him double thumbs down just because I can't make the joke. So when I played Draven and Hoth, I had a MC75, two projection expert Peltas, and then a GR75. And I played Pluis Gen in round 2 or 3, and he made the joke that Kraken would be better for my fleet, even though it only affects the GR75, because I would get 2 extra points of bid. And I can't make that joke anymore, so I got to give it the double thumbs down. But realistically speaking, I don't think that it's going to increase any Draven play, but for the weirdos who want to mess around with this guy, at least you can fit in another turbo laser upgrade or something now.
Yeah, I don't think he's good. it wasn't his point cost that was keeping him from being played, but um, sure, one thumb up. It's in the right direction because he's terrible and he needs to be the cheapest commander, but not good enough. So, not inconsequential.
All right. General Madine now grants a yaw increase from the first maneuver's determined course step instead of being tied to navigation tiles or tokens. I think this is a big win. I like it. Very good. And he turns in, he goes, makes liberties pretty good now because you can just nav around without having to do the navs. So this guy, this might actually be kind of scary on the MC30s and the liberties. I don't know what's going to happen, but they're going to be yanking all over the place with the yoinking. What did we call it? Darn it! I've been out of Armada for so long now. What is the word we use for when you take a turn sharply? I'm so lost. Don't help me. Just let me suffer, guys. It's okay. All right. So this is I think this is a really good change for this guy. This guy takes him. I don't know what we had him on the tier list, but this at least takes him up one level or two, possibly two. If he was C tier, I would see this guy now at like kind of A tier because you couple this in with a nav dial, it's great. It's kind of like Oslo in the fact you get to do the change without having to do the dial. So I think this is great. I don't know what this is going to do. I'm kind of scared about it, so I'll give it 2 thumbs because it's an improvement. But maybe I should retract one of my thumbs later on when I find out that it's overpowered.
All right, I'm going to give this 1.5 thumbs, and that half thumb is in reservation for when I actually get this on the table. In theory, this could be really cool because Rebels don't have a double dial commander, but with this new Madine effect, you no longer have to take the nav command in order to add yaw. And so this might open up a possible battle cruiser style, which we've seen in all of the other factions, whether it be with like Thrawn, Ozzel, or Vale, or even like Trench and stuff in Separatist, because you're able to use nav and squadron together. Rebels weren't able to do that before, and you're definitely going to be paying the premium of 30 points, but that's the case with the other factions too. I think that potentially this guy could be really good. However, there's also the caveat that a lot of the strong stuff in Rebels are small ships anyway, and they don't really want to be taking the squadron command. They just want to be using their own nav. And because of that, I could see it just not really mattering in the grand scheme of things. So I'm going to reserve my half a point for later, but I do think that this is one of those changes. Just like when Ozzel got changed in 1.5, he went from completely useless to now he's one of the go-to squadron commanders. I could totally see that happening with Madine.
I don't know. I wish I was excited as Bodhi about it, but I don't. I don't know. I've been looking at the nav charts of Rebels here and trying to figure out what he fits onto that is so consequential of using your commander slot to get an extra click of yaw. And I just don't see it. Any other ship that I'm looking at just wants a different commander. The Starhawk wants Agate. The side arc ships, they want Akbar, or the faster ships, they want Kraken. Maybe an assault frigate, like a Gallant Haven, and you can kind of turn better, especially going speed 3, or kind of wiggle out. But I don't know. They want Akbar or Agate also for survivability. So at 30 points, I don't think it's good enough. I don't think he's going to get played seriously and competitively. People will try him out for the new ability, but yeah, one thumb up because it's a move in the right direction, but inconsequential.
Let me put this into a little bit of context for you. If you have a nav dial and you use this guy, you can JJ turn with an MC30 at speed 4.
Correct. He also makes the Providence nav chart suck a little bit less. He lets you do some really janky things with Starhawks and Pickles, because with a nav dial you can just straight up 90-degree turn it. He's really good with MC80s. That's kind of what he's been popular with in the past, like the Liberty, sorry. But I think if you're doing the battle cruiser thing, like I was talking about, you're probably going to want it with the command cruiser, maybe doing a MC75 armored type of thing. I don't know. Like I said, it's reserved until I get a chance to play test it, but I could totally see either way being, either he's really good or he's the same as he has been.
I think it's going to be nasty. You're going to see MC30 fleets. You can do this with CR90s as well now. I don't know if this was completely thought through. So you could last first from outside long range, jump in at speed 4 with the CR90, and then be gone out the back or side arc. And you could do that rinse and repeat with several MSU CR90s.
That's nothing that you couldn't do before, and other commanders also help that. Like Kraken is going to make a more survivable. Akbar is going to give you more dice, whatever you want. I think that Maydeen, if he's going to help something, it's either going to be MC30s or it's going to be larges. And I think that MC30s just benefit from other commanders as well. So I think this is probably going to be one of the rebel large picks in the mix with Agate and Radis. We might see a little bit more with Maydeen. I don't know.
I'm calling it. It's going to be MC30s with Foresight, Admonition, Maydeen, Rogues, and maybe I'm going to say Day 2 Worlds. It makes the Day 2 Worlds. How about that?
I think that's a fair take.
All right. Well, maybe we can try to get a little hotter. Assault Frigate Mark II-A goes from 81 points to 77 points. That's a drop of 4 points. That's okay. The reason you never take this guy is because he doesn't have the squadron value. I have seen some I put together a few lists that I like with Paragon and Kirsta Agate and a Salva token or something. It's good. Maybe we'll see it. What do you think, Bodie? I have a single thumb on this one. Single thumb up.
Man, if you've talked to me or seen the list that I love to play, you know that I'm a sucker for flak boats. And the Assault Frigate Mark II-A has always been on the upper echelon of them, in my opinion. The first competitive fleet that I ever flew was Gallant Haven with this to use Ruthless Strategist, and you would Ruthless off of your VCXs, so you get dumb strategic stuff, and you can just wipe their squad ball clean, while also yours is being protected by Gallant Haven. And of course, the Assault Frigate's never going to die because it's Agate. The Agate change, the 5 points, I definitely noticed it in that point, or in that fleet. And now it's basically just been refunded. Man, I love this change. I think that the only reason that you were ever flying the Mark II-A was if you were trying to do something with the extra flak die. Because in almost every way, it's worse. The squadron value is lower, and you're really not going to get much benefit out of the extra blue die or whatever from your front and rear, because this is a side arc ship. It wants to be flanking. I guess you mentioned Paragon. That's fine, I suppose. But the real reason that you were playing this is for the flak, and anything that makes one of my baby flak boats cheaper, I'm happy with. So double thumbs.
Yeah, thumbs down. You basically gave it a 1 point Paragon. Congratulations. It's a faction with a lot of options. Uh, I don't know. Was it overcosted? I don't mind this points adjustment as much as like the Victory 2, because I think the Victory 2 was more appropriately costed, and there were so many better options. Maybe this guy was a little overcosted, and he just didn't get played because there's so much better options. But uh, yeah, I don't think it needed to be buffed.
Do you have thumbs? Did you give thumbs? What did you say?
Yeah, I gave it a thumbs down. Thumbs
Okay.
down.
All right. Well, next we'll just talk about MC75s in general. There's both of them were reduced in price. The armored cruiser went down by 5 points, as well as the ordnance cruiser from 100 to 95, and then the armored was at 104 and it's now 99. I actually see this as maybe not a good thing. The reason people took it, let's be honest, I guess is for fundity. I've seen aspiration every now and then, but people don't use it like I think they should. You know, I would like to think I have all the right opinions. And the aspiration with the projection experts recharging the shields is kind of the right way to do it. But yeah, really don't think that they needed to decrease the points on these two. So I'm giving this one thumbs down. I like it, like I fly this, so I'm happy about it. But did they need to do it? I think not.
I think so. I think Rebel Larges were in a really rough spot. There was even a thread on the Armada Hub a few months ago that was like, what can be done about Rebel Larges? And I think the MC75 was kind of the biggest offender. Maybe the MC80 Home 1 variant, but we'll talk about that in a minute. The main issue with the MC75 is that it's a close range ship and it's a double arc ship, and it has a weird defensive token suite that doesn't really fit that play style. So unless you were bringing it with Agate or Radis, Agate lets you close the distance, and Radis lets you like drop it in and close the distance. Um, you were really like not you weren't going to notice the MC75. It was just going to get blacked. I think that the points change is a step in the right direction. Um, and I think it's going to be a noticeable one. I think that Radis gets to like bathe in these extra 5 points. One of the janky fleets that I designed well over a year ago now was designed to combat old onagers as a double MC75 list. And I was struggling to get things under 400 while still having a bid for first. And I was looking at that list today, and so much of it got adjusted that I have like a 25-point bid now. And I definitely think the list is more on the janky end, less on the competitive end. But I'm gonna bring it back out, put some new toys in it, and so I'm gonna give both the MC75s a thumbs up. I hope that we see them a little bit more, but I still think that aside from Agate and Radis, probably not going to see them a whole bunch more unless my Median idea kicks in.
Yeah, I don't think these guys needed to be buffed. I think that the Rebel smalls are just so cheap and so efficient that these things don't get played, and that doesn't mean that they're overcosted. I think the Rebel smalls are too cheap and too efficient, especially the MC30. The MC30 should have got hit with a nerf, a base nerf on top of the title nerfs that we'll talk about later. But one of the things you can do with an MC75 Ordnance Cruiser now is take your 4 points and or 5 points, and you can put X-Racks and expanded launchers on it for 12 extra points. So it's a net of only 7 points, which is about half the cost of what expanded launchers used to be. So now you can do 2 blues and 5 blacks out the front, and then you can do 3 reds and 4 blacks out the side, and that thing will hit like a truck. Or you can shoot from your front expanded launchers And then if you like rolled a whole bunch of hits and crits on your blacks, then you can still X-Rax out the front and, use your ordnance experts there. And so it's a lot of good options. Or for 4 less points, you can take rapid reload instead of expanded launchers. And so now you're getting 2 dice out of the sides. So if you're able to like Radish drop in an Akbar slash, or just fly this thing into the middle, like last first, fly this thing in the middle and Akbar or and slash, or with Akbar too. Um, you're at 3 native black dice out the side and 5 red dice out the side. And then you can Rax one of those shots. That's a lot of firepower. So I hope people will play those lists just to shake up the rebels a little bit and to play something a little different than Rebel MSU. But I'm not. I think you could have maybe got the same effect with the buff to rapid reloads and expanded launchers like you did with the points decrease that we haven't talked about yet, and maybe a little bit of a tweaking of Rebel Smalls. But that's just me.
All right. Well, I think we've each had our own little soapboxes to get on now. Let's see. MC80. MC80, Soul Cruiser and Command Cruiser both got decreased, and I think this one is the change that is appropriate. The Soul Cruiser was quite expensive at 114. At 110, it's like palatable. It's the correct word to use. So I'm okay with that. I'll give that like let's say 2 thumbs up. I'm happy about it. The Command Cruiser, I don't think necessarily needed to be changed in cost. I think it should have just gotten the native icon for fleet commands. So this change I'm not really particularly like happy with. Like it's okay. I'll give it 1 thumb up, but the Soul Cruiser gets 2. I guess you said Patrick won at LVO, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Sick. I don't know if I helped him. I hope I did. But I know he's a good enough player that he probably figured it out on his own. But I mentioned to him to use a intensify firepower flag bridge to secure the damage on the Radish drop. So he probably figured that out on his own. He's a really good commander, admiral. All right, Bodhi, what do you got for these 2 guys?
Yeah, so I mean, there was almost no reason to bring the MC80 before the point change. I definitely think that Patrick's list kind of revolutionized what you can do with this ship. I know that I and a lot of other players just completely wrote it off. Same with the Home One title, just way too expensive, way too useless. I think the MC80 still falls short. It's got 6 dice out the side. It's balanced around the fact that it's in the Akbar faction. But this thing does suffer in firepower. But they're pretty tanky. You don't really think about it because it's only got 8 hull, but with the going to 4 shields on the side, it's got about the same amount of total like damage across the board as an ISD. It's just taken from hull into shields. You go from 3 to 4 on the sides and 2 to 3 in the back. So I don't know. I could definitely see MC80s seeing a little bit more play. You got to remember that you have to staple on what is it? Whatever gives you extra movement. Engine techs. Don't know why I forgot that, but speed 2 is almost unplayable in Armada these days, so you got to remember your engine techs. But I could totally see these seeing a bit of a resurgence now. So I'll give 1 thumbs up. I don't expect them to be super competitive outside of a few niche builds, but definitely happy, and I think it'll be worth testing.
This one I like the pickle. I think it should get played more than it does. So this is the Rebel and the Imperial hull change that works me the least. It's a side arc ship, so you're not um, quite getting the firepower of a double arc. I mean, you can double arc with it, but then you're probably maybe in a little bit of a bad position. But it's still, I mean, it's got 6 dice out the side, which is respectable. So its firepower isn't huge or overwhelming. Um, it does have a lot of shields. It's got 15 shields. I think uh, that's the most shields on a large other than a Starhawk, which only has a Starhawk only has one more shield than this guy. So uh, it's a lot of shields to chew through. And since they put on engine techs, like it's good at getting 1 or 2 rounds in and then just flying away. Double defense, PDICs, all the above. Um, I would have liked for it to got a command slot, like y'all said. I think being a command cruiser, maybe it should have, and maybe only gotten a 2-point buff, and the assault cruiser could have got its 4-point buff, but the command cruiser got the command slot. That would have been pretty good. But this is the one that I think I like the most, especially with the buff to its title that we'll talk about in a little bit.
All right. That wraps up the ships. On to squadrons. The E-Wing squadron went from 15 to 14 points. This change from 15 to 14 points is a world of difference. Huge, oceans away difference from what it was at 15 points. At 15 points, you do not take this. It's too expensive. It's not efficient. At 14 points, it becomes like a question. Like, am I going to take this? I can fit one of these guys in, as opposed to taking, let's say, Rogue Squadron or something, or it's one more point than an X-wing with escort. So it's reasonable now. It's okay. It's still not the best squadron. Like if you want a really good squadron, you'll take the YT 2400 for 16 points. But here you can actually make some builds where you like tie up something and then snipe it from a little ways away. You can use Ben Rao, is that his name, I think, to activate these guys and then have them fly at great speeds and then do some damage. So I like this change. I think it's 2 thumbs up. It takes something from completely inefficient and untakeable to reasonable. At 13 points, I don't know if that's the right choice with how much it's doing in the faction. So I think 14 is probably like a happy place for it. Maybe you can go lower, but 2 thumbs up for me.
I am noticing possibly the discrepancy. When I am seeing something that is a powerful change, I'm like, yes, I like this, and I give it more thumbs up. And when I see something that was not a helpful change, I'm like, thumbs down, this is bad. But you guys seem like scared of the stuff. But I don't think that this change to E-Wings is going to do anything. I think that it's going to be a middle thumbs for me. I think that E-Wings were pretty bad before, and they're pretty bad now. I don't often want to consider X-Wings at 13 points. And E-Wings at 14 are not much better, and they don't have the cool escort synergy you get with some of the stuff like Biggs or whatever, and Hera. I think that, as it stands, the squadron meta is you're going to bring 4, if you're bringing a heavy squadron ball, you're going to bring 4 aces, and then you're going to bring 4 generics that fit into your cost curve. And most of the time that ends up being your cheaper option, like, your interceptors or your TIE fighters or your Vulture droids or whatever it is. And I think 100% of the time in Rebels, if you're even getting to the generic spot, because Rebels have some really good non-ace uniques, you're probably just, bringing a couple of A-Wings or maybe some Z95s for the screen, or you're just going to pay the extra 2 points now and go for a YT2400, which is miles better. I don't think that E-Wings are going to change at all, so they get a middle of the road.
I like this change. I don't know why E-Wing. Well, okay. So I do know why E-Wings aren't taken as is, because there's just better options. There's better squadron options. The only reason you take X-Wings is for bigs, and that's it. Or maybe, no, it doesn't even, never mind. So for bigs, and that's it. E-Wings at 14 points, I feel like it does maybe unlock them a little bit, which I'm excited about. I hope it does. I think you hit the nail on the head, Josh. Like, it's going to be a Finn Rao combo where you've got your E-Wings are going to be the ones that Finn Rao activates, and they do their snipe, and they can stay a little bit, like, it gives them a lot more flexibility to still get their torn far rerolls. So you lose a die for snipe as opposed to normal attack because they only have snipe 3 and they have 4 blue anti-squadron, but you can stay at a more favorable area and still get your torn far reroll, and therefore it's almost kind of like not losing a die, even though it still is. I understand, but yeah, I don't think that they needed a buff because I think they were good at 15 points. I just think there were stuff out there that was so much better, and that's why they didn't get played. But I am kind of excited to see if they get more play at 15.
Alrighty. Yeah, I am really looking forward to someone figuring out how to do the Finral combo where you 8R Talon from Yavaris, and then you bomb with an extra bomber dice for like 4 B-Wings or something on the ship. Whenever that happens, somebody call me over so I can just watch the whole thing unravel. I'd love to see that. Alright, up next is Key and Farlander, who went from 20 points to 18 points. Effectively, this just takes a double brace B-Wing from overcosted to like reasonably costed, but still not great. So the reason you would take him is because you want more braces, not because for his ability or anything. So at 18 points, he's like, you can spend the premium to get him now, and it's like okay, but you would still take 10 numb before this guy. So uh I'm just like, this is 2 thumbs up. I like it, but is it effective? I don't think so.
No, I think that Kian has a few things going for him. The main one is that he bombs with double black, which I think he's the only squadron in the game to do that. Uh, and his ability lets you reroll if they have no shields. And I remember we were pretty critical on this guy when we did our Rebel Squadron tier list all those months ago. I really don't think that going to 18 points is going to super affect this guy. But the list that we're playing Kian, which granted is not very many of them, but the list that we're playing him, I think that having those 2 points may ease. Like this is one of the few slight adjustments that may make a slightly bigger change, because I don't know. Like if you were going for this whole strategy, you were playing a lot of expensive squadrons anyway, and so this might affect how things fit into your 134. I don't know though. I haven't done the math, but I think in the middle of the road. I don't think that it's going to change anything from how he's actually played.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like Rebel Squadron meta is what it is. This guy's not going to shake anything up. He's got one of those kick 'em while he's down abilities where it's really good if you're already winning. Like if you're getting your 2-speed double black die bomber attacking a whole zone that doesn't have any shields, you're in a pretty good spot for that game. So I don't know. thumb up because I don't even know if it's a thumbs up. I think at 20
Yeah.
points, he's well balanced for what he does for his stat lines and all of that. Um, now he's the same at 20 points. He was the same cost as Oddball from Gar, and slightly similar, but um, it's just there are so many better options. So it's another one of those. Yeah, he moved up the ladder on the ace list, but he's still not in the top 10, and he's still gatekeeped because of that.
Alrighty. The Lancer class Pursuit Craft went from 15 to 14 points. So this is the first rogue, aside from Rogue Squadron, that is this cheap. I actually don't think this was really warranted. I'm not a huge fan of this. Like, uh, this is a little bit frightening. You've got a 4-hole speed 4 rogue. I think it has 2 dice, 2 blues for bombing, and 3 anti-squadron. So at 15 points, you wouldn't take it because you were doing a lot of other stuff with aces. But at 14 points, yikes. I just got to double check and make sure this is actually a double dice bomber. No,
No, he's
I'm a
just one
liar.
black die bomber.
But it does have grit. So this guy
It
on his
does.
own when flying around can't be locked down, right? So 14 points, bomber flying around at speed 4. He can mess your stuff up by zooming around and securing kills without needing to be activated. So it's a bit scary. 14 points. I don't know. This is going to change the meta a little bit, I think, because now for 14 points, would you rather have Rogue Squadron that has 4 blue dice and 1 extra hole, but it's 3 speed, or would you rather have 3 anti squadron, a black bomber on an attack? I think you'd rather take this guy now, and then use Torn for a reroll when you need it. That's my take. Is you take this guy now, and this guy Gold Squadron, Tycho, Wedge, the whole complement for the squadrons just got like, and you're saving 2 points from a YT 2400. I guess if you want to splurge, you can get 2 more points, and you get essentially the same thing for better, but without grid. I don't know. I don't like this actually. I'm down, thumbs down by one thumbs down.
This is one of the few like 1 point adjustments that's actually got me a little bit excited. Kind of a similar boat to the aggressor. Like I felt like these were fairly solid before. It's just hard to bring a lot of them, and now I think there could be some pretty interesting lists to spring up. Maybe we see a world where the YT 2400 isn't the de facto choice anymore. Um, there's these two are definitely different squadrons. They have different keywords and different dice and all that. But I think it could lead to some interesting ideas. And comparing it to Rogue Squadron is a very good point. There's some degree of is it better, is it worse to be a non-ace unique versus a generic? Because some squadrons and other abilities will affect you for being unique. But I don't know. I think that this could provide some really fun fleet ideas. I'm going to give it one thumbs up. I don't know if it's going to be quite competitive because Rebel squadrons currently are kind of looking more in the not quite at the 134 range, and if they are, they're pretty tight with like a Riken thing where you want them to all be unique. So I don't know. I am hesitantly optimistic about Lancers, so I'll leave them one thumbs for now.
I'm gonna do a thumbs down. I agree with Captain Ketter that I don't think they needed it. I think 14 is too cheap for this ship. But it's only one thumbs down because, again, I think it's inconsequential. I don't think this is going to shake up the Rebel Squadron meta. You might see them a little bit more. I mean, you can fit 9 of these guys in a 134, or you can do like what people do with the YTs and do like 8 in Jan. give them a little bit more survivability to be able to brace. That's at 131 points. I don't know how many people have 8 Lancers. I don't know what pack they came in or whatever, but probably not too many. So maybe it'll just be a TTS only thing. But yeah, I think it was, if you combine this with like some good flak boats, chew down their squads, and now you have rogue bombers that can chase down their ships. I think that's too much, but that's just me. Especially if you do this with like the new assault frigate Mark II-A. The points decrease, and then you put Gallant Haven on that sucker, and Jan. Give these guys quite a bit of survivability to be able to do some damage. But yeah, that's all. One thumb down.
I think we after Worlds this year, I think we might have a conversation about having a rogues cap, like we have an ace cap, because like you said, you can fit 9 of these. Like, there's already a little bit of a problem with having like, okay, it's not really a problem, but like so many YG 2400s you can put in one list is like pretty nuts. It's so much to chew through, and you know, it's just a lot. But I mean, we can talk about that when we come to it. I think it's going to be a point at Worlds though, is that rogues, like a list of all rogues, is going to be annoying enough to where I think people are going to start complaining on a larger scale. All right, up next is Lando Calrissian, who went from 23 to 24 points, an increase of 1 point. I think this is the right move. I think I would give this 2 thumbs up. I think 24 points is right about where like the highest squadrons in the game should be sitting. His ability is rather strong. I think that maybe he should just have 1 brace. You know? Anyway, let's see, 2 thumbs up for me because I think it's the right move, but it's also not much of a nerf. Let's be honest.
Yeah. First of all, I think 1 brace would just absolutely kill this guy. I don't think he'd be playable at all. But yeah, I mean, this was one of, if not the single most, I'm not saying best, but like most powerful rebel squadrons. I mean, I don't remember where we ranked him a few months ago, but I think he's in my S tier. But all of that is to say, like, 1 point's not going to affect this much. I think if you add Lando in your list, you're just going to lose a point a bit. And if you are already at 134 or you are already at 400, you're just going to do a slight mixing around. So, yeah, it's not going to do anything. 1 thumbs down because they barely tried.
Yeah, I agree. 1 thumbs down. I would have liked to see his ability get touched. I think that's probably the best thing to do to keep him relevant and nerf him. Instead of dropping him to 1 brace, just make his second ability, because he's got 2 abilities. That's insane. We've talked about this before. But make his second ability a discard instead of a spend, and you're good. Like, I think that fixes him pretty well. And maybe a point increase, but just 1 point increase. Come on, like, we're talking about a 7% increase or whatever that is. That's nothing. You find the point if you want Lando in your squad. Usually Lando isn't in 134s anyways. So yeah, you use one of the 5 points that you lost on any of the other ships that you're flying at. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I will say that Forced X or EXE did a great job. This PDF that we're going off of looks fantastic, and I'm sure if you're listening, this has already been brought to your attention. I'm not trying to knock it. I just want to say it so that we don't miss it. But Han Solo is missing from this. He did get a buff, a 2 point decrease. I think maybe to keep him more in line with Lando there, but he went from I think 26 points to 24 points.
Yeah, I think
Or
that's
no,
right.
20. Was he 28?
No, I think
No,
it's
he's always been 26. He wasn't changed.
On this, oh, never mind. Then somebody else missed it because I'm reading this says Lando's 28 points. Okay, I messed up. You can just edit this out and post.
no, I'm
'Cause
not doing all that work, bro.
well, no, the screenshot that we were going off of too says he went from 28 to 26. So,
Yeah, it was my
anyway,
understanding that he also went down from 26 to 24.
no, he went. This says down from 28 to 26, but now that I'm looking at it, he's still 26. So, I don't know. It was a lot to take
He's
in.
26 on both the new document and
Yeah,
Ryan Kingston.
people
So
were trying to process all this information and get it out. So, stuff gets missed or added or whatever. Anyway, moving on.
Maybe Hira went from 26 points to 21 points, a 5-point decrease. This is excellent. She was absolute garbage at her and completely inefficient at her current previous cost. Excuse me. I have 2 thumbs up for this. I don't think people are going to use it too much, honestly, because what are you going to use that in? Like the only thing that really is great synergy is Sato Black Dice. But aside from that, like it's just kind of nice to have a screed ability every now and then. So maybe you take it with some ships that want HIEs guaranteed, but it's not really all that great. 2 liberties and HIEs, or maybe 1 liberty HIE. Then you don't need to change to the Black Dice variant. HIEs, long range. Yeah, and then I would always just switch out my red dice for black dice after that. Anyway, I see this as 2 thumbs up, but if I'm counting at Worlds, I think I'll probably see like in day 2. I don't think I'm going to see her. I'll be honest.
I don't even think you're going to see her in day 1. 5 points is pretty drastic, and I applaud that. 26 was far too overcosted for her ability. But again, this is kind of one of those niche things. Drew has said a couple of times now that just because these lower ranking aces are seeing a buff does not mean that they're going to make it into the top 4 or 5 that actually see play. And with that ace cap, don't think you're going to see her much outside of some fringe Sato builds. Although with the brand new version of Reserve, Rapid Launch Base, maybe Molly has a place in Sato. So I'll give it 1 thumbs up because it's a drastic change and I appreciate that. But I still don't see it doing much of anything.
Yeah, I don't want to be contrarian. This isn't me just trying to be contrarian, but this is actually the one out of the entire Rebels change, except for maybe Draven, that I think is the best change. Because 26 was too much. I agree with everything Bodhi said, especially because he was quoting me. But I do think that maybe she will see some play at 21. And whether it's Sato, Dodana, the other upgrade that we haven't gotten to yet, the turbo laser slot that lets you do the first 2 damage face up, that got buff, points decrease. Especially since they don't have as much access to LTT. The thing that hurts melee is she can help like HIE go off with Corvette Bs. That's really effective. But the thing that hurts melee is that the dice pools that the rebels are using are generally pretty small to begin with. Even like CR90s throwing three reds out the side with Akbar, like they're TRCing one of them. So you really don't want to give up. You'd have to roll 3 blanks in order to, and have no other dice fixing in order for melee to fit in there. And they're just so efficient at MSU, lots of small attacks. So it's not really gonna there's other dice fixing that's going to fill this slot. I do hope that maybe some people will start incorporating her, maybe build a few lists around her or whatever the case may be. But I think that the Rebel squad meta is set without melee. Maybe she'll find one or two niche homes with a 5-point decrease, and that's about it.
I will say she's also the same price as Nim now. So you have two of these Skurg fighters that are pretty. I mean, they're double dice grit, and they've got a special ability, 6-hole. I said double dice, yeah. I meant double brace, but they also have 2 dice. So like, they're not anything to slouch at anymore. Like, Nim is always hard to get to pop off, but they have a little bit of value. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. Up next, we're going to talk about the titles. There's a lot to say here. Let's be honest. There's changes are, I think, mostly positive. We'll start off with Admonition, which went from 6 points to 10 points, but now does not require you to spend a ready defense token to cancel an attack die. I think that's the way it was. I don't know. I kind of think that's the way it was meant to be whenever they printed it out and they, like, maybe did it wrong. I don't know. Maybe they were afraid to make it too strong. But for 10 points, I think that's a fair cost. The MC30s are very difficult to kill when you don't have the titles on them, because they just move shields and then they fly off the GTFO afterward. So I don't really know if it really needed the buff, let's be honest. So I think this is like I don't know. I think I have no thumbs for this one because I want to like it because of the ability gets like buffed a little bit. It makes it easier to understand. But I don't like how MC30s are hard to kill and harder to kill now.
So Admonition used to read with this text, but it got changed in 1.5 as a nerf because it was too strong, I guess. So I'm gonna give, and I'm jumping ahead again, but I want to group this in with Foresight. Sorry, but Foresight is also 10 points now, up from 8. So I think that double MC30 is going to be a meta-defining list. Now, like, I mean, Foresight, if you're flying double MC30, you're taking Foresight, obviously, because it's super strong. It's probably the most defensive card in the game, most powerful defensive card. Now having this version of Admonition, your second MC30, which was already probably flying with Admonition just because, it's just that much more tanky. I think that a lot of fleets are going to struggle with, having to deal with the firepower that MC30s can put out at close range and the speed that they get there and are able to run away. And like you said, these guys aren't, they're not a super easy thing to drop, especially with these titles. I think that there are so many different commander options that you can consider. There's the Akbar version that uses the scout frigates, and there's maybe a Kraken or Riken version that uses the torpedo frigates. But I expect there to be at least one double MC30 list in the top 8 at Worlds this year. It's something that, as I'm looking at lists that I'm considering, it's one that I'm thinking about maybe playing myself, and it's something that I'm definitely considering. Do I have a good matchup into this fleet? Because, it is going to be a very potent, powerful archetype. So double thumbs up for me. I think this is a great change. Definitely a scary one, but it is going to make a difference.
Double thumbs down. I think MC30s were already way too strong, and this helps them. I would have, if you're going to make this change, I would have liked for either the card to be an exhaust, or for the MC30s to get points increase, or both. I think this is just, it's too strong. They have double defense tokens. You can, uh, you know, like redirect and then next turn, or redirect and evade one shot. And so cancel a die at long range and then redirect to another whole zone, or your whole zone because you're flying away, and it's got three. They have too many shields. And then your next turn, you can pitch your spent evade and pitch your spent redirect to cancel 3 dice. And then you can still redirect because it doesn't count as spending that defense token. You just discarded a readied one. And so now you still have, you've canceled what, 4 dice and redirected twice, and you still have an exhausted redirect and a readied evade. It's just way too much defensive capability there, and it's so annoying. And it just promotes hit and run, flying away, cagey play. I don't like it. I don't like to play that way. I don't like to play against those lists. So for me, this is double thumbs down. Should have got the points increase without the change in text. If you're going to change the text, make it an exhaust or, something else. But it just gives them way too many options. And then the foresight, since we're talking about that too, same thing. It's a change in the right direction. Foresight needed to be nerfed, but 2 points is, if it was 2 points and a chassis points increase, that would have maybe been okay. But honestly, I think Foresight should be an exhaust, and it should have a cost to refresh, whatever that might be, whether it's a token or a specific token or whatever. But yeah, they should have increased the holes of 30s. That's the point values. That's all I have to say about that.
I don't know. I think it's difficult to raise the points. They're already more expensive than the Gladiator, even the cheaper variant.
They hit harder and are more survivable and faster.
I think the Gladiator with the new expanded armament out the front is going to be pretty nasty. So I think
you can put expanded launchers on these. These
know,
can throw 4 red dice at long range with Akbar and have double evades and double redirects to survive. Like, they're just too good. And then H9s on the blue dice version is just too good. A guaranteed accuracy with all that damage behind it. And H9s isn't an exhaust, so you guarantee an accuracy on your front shot with a blue and 4 blacks, and on your side shot with 2 blues and 3 blacks.
It's true. The way I kill these things, I used to block their path, and so their nav was so bad that you couldn't, like, even at speed 3, you really had trouble trying to work your way around it. If you're a medium or large ship, you had to kind of like position yourself if you were small. But now with the mating change, I think it's going to be hell trying to kill these things. Yeah. So I'm kind of on board with you. Like, they're a little bit too difficult to kill at the moment, but the best way to take them down is kind of just ram them, make them ram you, and then maybe try and do it again. All right. And up next is Dodonna's Pride.
Shrimp meta.
Yes, it's probably going to be a thing. Shrimp meta and rogues. Dodonna's Pride went from 6 points to 4 points, and this kind of came out of nowhere for me. I think it kind of happened because it wasn't taken very much, but I don't think it was warranted. I think Dodonna's Pride was just fine at 6 points. It's pretty powerful. Now at 4 points, you can get a really cheap, really nasty CR90B. So I have let's say 2 thumbs down for this one, but because I'm a Rebel player, I like it. I'm gonna take it for sure.
I think that this is probably not going to affect too much. I'll give it a middle of the road. Um, I think if you're a fleet that already wanted Dodana's Pride, then you're happy to take this, and you're going to use those 2 points for whatever reason. Um, but I mean, this is only really seen on the CR90B, just because more blue dice crit options or chances. Um, and that's already a pretty niche ship, so I don't see the rate of play to increase or decrease because of this.
So with Dodana's Pride and E-Wings, Lancers, Melee, all going down, I'd like to see more Dodana um, to fish for those crits or whatever the case may be. Um, I think that would be. I think maybe there's a Dodana meta that is on the rise. Not saying that it's going to be groundbreaking or meta shifting at large, but there is. Dodana did get a lot of buffs. The Admiral Dodana has got a lot of buffs in this errata, and this is one of them. I don't mind the change that much. I don't think CR90s needed a buff, but uh, you know, it is kind of frustrating when like you have a CR90 and you roll your 3 dice and it's 2 accuracies and a crit, and then instead of uh, just doing 1 damage to your shield, I'm gonna do 1 face-up damage to your hull. Uh, that's pretty strong, but it's kind of niche, and other things drowned it out because they're just better.
Okay. Up next. Well, we already talked about Foresight. The change to 8 to 10 points, I think, is kind of warranted. It's pretty nasty, and when you put Kirsta on the C30, I mean, I feel bad for Jason because like his list kind of got nuked by these changes. Not like nuked, but personally attacked. Maybe he feels personally attacked about this. Uh, but kind of warranted to really. You don't really need the titles to keep them alive, but when you put them on there, then it gets pretty tanky. I think you guys already talked about this one, but I'll give this one a thumbs up. I don't feel too strongly. It's like 2 points.
Thumbs
Home
up didn't
one
go
went
far
from
enough.
7 points. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see. Home one went from 7 points to 5 points. This was kind of shocking to me. It did not see much play, but with it going down to 5 points, I can see someone having like a pickle with projection experts and then MSU following it around. And with Akbar, like this kind of all these changes kind of bring Akbar back down to the MC80, the pickle, and like create space for other stuff. So like an Akbar pickle with MC30s might be a thing, and I do not like that. The title home one I enjoy only when I'm flying Nebulons and I'm like I'm making Nebulon to work and it makes me feel good. But you know, I like the change because I fly Rebels. Like I've said this a few times, but I don't know if it's the right call for the meta. So I'm ambivalent on this one. I'd like to see how this plays out.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit this podcast about Patrick's Radis list, and um, I think out of all of the fleets that I've seen in my time playing this game, that's been the only one that I've truly been impressed with home one like working. Um, and I think that and that's 400 points. I think that it's an interesting card in higher point totals. Um, I don't think that this is an Akbar card. I think that Akbar thrives on having multiple small shots of 2 to 3 damage And you don't really need accuracies for that because you have, the large amount of damage in small bursts that are really hard to use defense tokens on anyway. I think that this is a Radis card, and I think that um, Radis is one of the real big winners here. And if you're flying an MC80 pickle with Radis, then you're probably going to want this card on it. And those 2 points by itself doesn't do much, but compounding with all of these other changes that we're seeing, I think that is going to add up. And I'll give it 1 thumbs up. I don't think it's going to make a huge increase in play, but I think that it does make the card a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be fine with Akbar, but I agree with your take on that. With you're throwing lots of small dice pools and you can get damage out of them. You don't really need it. I think Home One struggles in that its text says that it's another ship, another friendly ship. I think if it worked on itself, it'd be a lot better, but maybe it'd be too good. But yeah, the Radis list, Patrick's list with Shriv, you drop Shriv and strip off that ECM, and now you're guaranteed an accuracy. I mean, accuracy tech is strong. Just look at the change to price. Yeah, so your Shriv boat can shoot a red, blue, and a black, and then if you have X-Rax on it, you can dump in 2 more black, and guarantee an accuracy, stop their brace. Then your Profundity can activate and stop the brace, and you're dumping a ton of damage into them that they just can't brace.
One thing I'd like to point out is that if you bring Sato, you can take like a naked MC80 pickle and then weapons battery text on some other stuff and get like HIEs at long range or something without needing melee hero. Okay, it's not great. I'm not trying to put that out there as something that's exceptional, but it's another way Sato ends up working. Anyway, don't know why that was in my head. Jaina's Light went from 2 to 5 points. I think this is everyone deserves a round of applause around the room for this change. I do like kind of the fact that like titles are kind of exceptional in the game, and that in some cases they didn't really reflect their value. They were just 2 points because it's that good. It's a good card, but in the competitive sphere, it does kind of make sense to balance things. So Jaina's Light going from 2 to 5 points is, I think, much needed change for its value. It was right up there with Darth Vader Officer, the best efficient, like the best card for its price in the game. So I say 2 thumbs up for making this change.
Yeah, so I mean, this was one of, if not the single best title in the game, and not really because it does something super swingy like Patriot Fist or Ravager, or something really defensive like Foresight. But I mean, it was just always there at 2 points, and I mean, upgrading your TCR 90 from 51 to 53 feels like a non-choice. One of your CR90s is going to have Jaina's Light, and it's going to be the more powerful option. Especially in Akbar lists where you have to get those side shots lined up. You can just completely ignore obstruction, which would usually cancel your shot. Now you get that shot guaranteed, and that's a really important thing that I think this change may just completely kill Jaina's Light. And I might be overanalyzing the 3-point difference, but that puts you at 56 points, which isn't quite at the 60-point threshold. It's not like they'd be able to snipe the one ship and get a 7, assuming nothing else dies. So I may be overanalyzing that, but I'm definitely looking at most of my CR90 lists, and I'm having to cut Jaina's Light because, you know, would I rather have this or would I rather have Ezra? And a lot of the time, I think I would rather have that support officer on all of my CR90s to do a little bit of a single helpful task. You know, and it may come with a bit of playtesting that I end up missing Jaina's Light, so I'll have to revalue that later. But I think I'm going to go with a medium thumbs. I think that some change needed to be made. There's a chance that this was a little bit too harsh, but there's also a chance that I'm overvaluing it. I really don't know yet. So, while it does hurt my soul just a tiny bit, I think it was warranted.
Yeah, this was absolutely warranted. Jaina's Light at 2 points was busted good. There's no question it was stapled to every CR90. Every list that had a CR90 had Jaina's Light, no question. I think it's still going to be every list that has a CR90 is going to have Jaina's Light. I don't think 3 points was enough. I think they should have added a text of after you overlap an obstacle, discard this card. It is so good that you can just fly around, ignoring obstruction, ignoring obstacles, landing on rifts, landing on, debris fields, asteroid, whatever, and it doesn't affect you. It's too good. But I'm happy that they touched it. I'm happy they nerfed it. I don't think it was enough. 1 thumb up.
All right. We've reached the end of this this section with redemption. We went from 8 to 5 points. I think this is a monumental change. Similar to E-Wings going down 1 point from 15 to 14. Redemption at 8 points was not taken by anybody. Let's be honest. Anybody. Like, I don't think I've ever seen redemption in a competitive setting, even at a casual tournament. And I was building lists to take redemption. If anybody was going to take it, I feel like it would be me, but I never could stomach it. I even put Here's to Agate on the redemption and was like putting lists together. I had a lot of fun thinking about it and tinkering with it. And I think I could make it work. But at 5 points, I can put this in a list. And it's now competing with Yavaris. Yavaris is difficult to make work anyway. But the really good title is the Vanguard title. But now you can put redemption in there with projection experts, or just let it sit there and couple it with. You don't have to couple it with Exodus Fleet, but it makes that even better with the command cruiser MC-80 going down, and then you can put in an MC-30. So MC-80, MC-30, redemption, and then squads to flavor, and you've got yourself a list. Like it's pretty good. It's gonna. I don't know if it's pretty good. I haven't tested it. Let's be honest. But I love this change. Love this change. It just made the Nebulon way too expensive whenever you had it at 8 points. It was not easy to take. So 2 thumbs up for me. I love this change. I will be flying this soon.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one. You're definitely correct that, when I'm flying a single Nebulon, it's probably going to be Vanguard. That's if I'm flying a Nebulon at all. Yeah, I have one list pulled up that I'm looking at that it's a double MC-80 pickle with engineering team and Mon Calamari Exodus Fleet and redemption in there, and Leia's the commander just so you can get the Dio Plus token. So each one gets engineering 10 every round. And right now, I was kind of struggling to fill things out. I'm at 391, and I'm missing quite a few upgrade slots. So now with the changes to the pickles and to engineering team and to redemption, I might be able to fit something else in. Now, was this fleet good? No, it just got absolutely annihilated by bombers. I don't know, maybe I can stick PDIC or something in now, but I think redemption is one of those really niche cards that, sure, it feels good for the redemption enjoyers. but I don't see it making any changes. So it's just going to be a negative, or not a negative, but a neutral again for me. It's cool, but I don't see it being played.
Yeah, I think it's inconsequential. Yay. Nebulons don't get taken much. Rebels don't really use engineering. I mean, they have the Mon Cal Exodus fleet, and that's still rarely ever used because they're just hit and run. If you're using engineering, then you stayed in the fight way too long. Anything more than just a token to move some shields over. But I guess now this does let you move with a token, move 3 shields over instead of just 2. So that's good. My first thought when I read Redemption and saw the points decrease was abandoned mining facility. You can take like a bunch of CR90, CR90s, the flotillas, the hammerheads. They all have 2 engineering, and even with just tokens, they can still mine the dust cloud, and then when the dust cloud's gone, they can still mine the station with just a dial, even though they only have 2 engineering points. But I don't know. It seems like a lot to make AMF work when they can just not take your AMF. But then again, if you have like AMF, Most Wanted, hyperspace migration, or opening salvo, you know, what do you want to give up there? So maybe, but yeah, I don't know. Thumbs up. 1 thumbs up, inconsequential.
All right. Well, clearly you guys do not show my share my man, it's getting late. My excitement about this change. I think it's going to be great. If you couple Redemption, MC Exodus Fleet, and Maydeen, you can generate tokens from like a GR75. Then you don't need to do a engineering dial. You don't need to nav, and then you can just focus on confire, confire, confire. So it might be really efficient actually, but we'll see. Um, so that wraps up all the changes for the Imperials and the Rebels. I think we'll just do a quick elevation section right now. I don't know if we're going to record the other half tonight, even though we said we might. We'll chat about that after, but let's elevate these factions by picking one thing from either faction that we think they missed that we wish they would have added. I'll just go ahead and go first and talk about my Vader change. I think they really should have changed Escort Vader, given him dodge and adept. So that's what I would elevate.
So I I think that choosing to elevate something that was missed, in my mind, I guess it feels like any normal elevation. So I'm gonna talk for a second, I guess. So obviously, from our ratings, we have some differing opinions on this balance update as a whole, and I'm sure we'll kind of go over some broad ideas at the end of the whole thing. But at least in my mind, AMG proved that they don't care, and somehow they didn't screw things up. Now, there are multiple typos in this document, and they didn't release the Django Fett until after everything else. They messed up a little bit, I guess, but I guess, like, in my mind, we were all expecting a little bit more. And I think part of that is because of the delay. And I know that some of the things that we like to play maybe didn't get the adjustments that we wanted to see, and some of the things that we don't like to play against didn't get the nerfs that we feel like they deserve. But all in all, I think that this update is going to It's going to change things more than you might originally think. If you're looking at it and it's just like, oh, this is just 1 point here, 2 points there, and those small adjustments to every average fleet isn't really going to do much. But I think that there are some overall winners, and I think that there's some interesting things to discover here, even if it's just revisiting a card that we haven't considered in a long time, uh, like Redemption or Home One or whatever it might be. So I guess, all of that is to say, I'd like to elevate the community. And I want you guys to pick something interesting. Maybe it's something that you haven't flown. If you're a newer player, maybe it's something that you've heard talk about. And just put it on the table. Or if you play online, put it on the digital space. And get something, that you haven't flown before. Just get it out there. Because I think that there is a lot of things to discover. And I want to see some discussion about whether or not this is really going to make a lasting impact in the game.
Well, I don't really want to follow that with my petty elevations, but I guess I have to. I would have liked to see more points balancing instead of just points decreasing. It seems like 90% of this is just decreasing points of stuff that isn't played. I would have liked to see increasing points of things that are played a lot, or tweaking things that are not played or versus played a lot. But we've talked about some things like Emperor Palpatine. Maybe he could have gotten a new ability, the Commander version. Increasing a few points here and there is consequential, like Bodhi said. But I think it's consequential if it's both directions. If I think a lot of people have lists that didn't really get touched at all. And then they can just keep playing their lists that they've always been playing. I would have liked for maybe some of those really good lists to get a points increase, and so they would have had to make some decisions about upgrades or changing to a different ship, or maybe push them a little bit more incentivization to play some of these other ships. But I definitely do think that in the ship game, the meta is going to be changed quite a bit. And we talked about it like, I think it was Patrick's list. That one LVO is now 14 points cheaper. He went from a 9-point bid to a 23-point bid. And so there's some room there to bump it up and add some stuff. But yeah, I'm glad they didn't.
I do want to say, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm glad they didn't do anything like stupidly broken or just completely run anything into the ground. But I don't know. I'm excited to see what Armada will look like in 6 months with just these changes, much less community projects as well. But what's going to come from just these changes and what kind of new scene we're going to see. To me, this feels like. Go ahead. I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to talk too long on an already long podcast, but I feel like if there were too many more points increases, I think that there would have been some people getting upset, because I know that, it's a really popular phrase to buff things and not nerf. And I feel like that's what's been needed in the game for some time, is a lot of these weaker upgrades and, weaker squadrons, lesser played things just need to be cheaper and at least make them a consideration. And I think we'll start to see that with some of them. Maybe not the things we talked about today. At least in faction, there's a lot of clear choices anyway. But some of these generic things and Clone Wars stuff, I think will we'll definitely see some of these new options. I think it is going to shake things up. But I don't know. I guess I'm starting to ramble, and I don't want to take away too much from the next episode's discussion. So I think I'll just cut myself off there.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. If you have any comments, I'm going to open up the Discord to everybody starting soon. And yeah, so I think I'm going to have a new format where you can listen on YouTube and Spotify if you like. And if you do, go ahead and leave a comment and like and subscribe, please, if you like our content. And then if you would like to listen live, I think we'll try and start to have a regular recording time. And then you can join us on Discord and listen in. You'll only be able to listen, you won't be able to speak. That way we don't get derailed too much. But yeah, hopefully you can join us soon. Thank you for listening. Y'all take care and keep playing Armada.